Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome here to the 8th race of the season for BackFire Sim Racing. Last week we went caution-free at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Here tonight, these drivers will tackle the concrete half mile known as the Last Great Coliseum. We're here in Bristol, Tennessee at the Bristol Motor Speedway for tonight's running of the Right Technology Solution 200. I'm Seth Cole alongside of Anthony McCurry. And Anthony, here tonight, it's going to be all about short track racing from dusk to evening conditions. What do we expect to see?
Well, Bristol has always been one of those tracks where you go into it hoping for the best, but inevitably you're going to end up with some damage on your car. So it's really about balancing whether or not you can sustain your driving habits with a damaged car. Because as you said, this is the Last Great Coliseum. It's the world's fastest half mile. You come into this race knowing that you're going to be beating and banging on some drivers throughout the night, and it's a long one. 250 laps here tonight. So you have to have the endurance to last the entire length of the race.
Big field here tonight as well, so lap traffic will most definitely be coming into play in this race as well, and of course a very tricky pit road to get on and off of, avoiding a speeding penalty. Let's go down trackside for pre-race ceremonies, and here tonight for our invocation we're going to get Pastor Zach Woods.
Let's pray. Almighty God, coming off of the heels of Easter, we just realized just how blessed we are in life. And Lord, for us to come together through the means of iRacing, we just sit back and reflect on the new friends we make here in BackFire and the new people we get to meet. So, Lord, we thank you for technology like this that exists, where we can come out and give of our passions tonight and let our conversations be fruitful and beneficial unto you. It's in Christ's name we pray. Amen.
And please welcome Rhina Osby as she honors America here tonight with the singing of our national anthem.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and rockets red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the brave and of the brave?
250 laps here this evening at Bristol Motor Speedway as we take a look at tonight's starting lineup. On the pole position, it's going to be last week's winner from Indianapolis, Matthew Robinson, alongside of a driver that almost was able to take that victory away from him in Corey Saucier. As we look further back here through the remainder of tonight's starting lineup, Anthony, so far in 7 races, 4 different drivers have gone to victory lane. What are we looking at here tonight? Do you think that Bristol is one of those wild card type tracks that maybe a driver that we wouldn't necessarily think could snipe the victory might be the one taking the checkered flag?
There's an added factor when you come to a track this short is when you get into traffic, the leaders have just as much problem getting around some of the traffic as anyone behind them will. So we've seen in races where the leader will be having a great run and then all of a sudden gets caught up in an incident or has something happen on pit road. There's a number of factors that come into this race, and you never know. Somebody running mid-pack or even someone running outside of the top 20 in this field might be able to sneak their way through, work the way up the field, and get a good finish. Certainly a top 10 is possible for some drivers that start at the back. 250 laps, there's plenty of time to make up some ground if you do fall backwards. So enough time, and like you said, well, hark back to earlier, it's a survival race. You have to be able to make it the entire 250 laps to even have a chance to win here at Bristol.
And of course, as well, there is a slightly different playoff system here in BackFire Sim Racing where a win doesn't guarantee you're going to make it into the playoffs. A win will obviously help you in terms of max points, it'll help you in terms of bonus points, but drivers still have to rely on consistency to make sure they make it into the postseason. With it being a half-mile track here tonight, a short track, these drivers will have 2 laps of pacing, so a little bit of extra time for them to be able to plan out their strategy. But as mentioned, last week at Indianapolis, it really came down to just raw speed and pit strategy. Here tonight, the strategy is going to change up quite a bit, but what about seeing possible long green flag runs? Do these drivers have themselves prepared for the long run, or do they have themselves prepared for the short run?
Something that is interesting is you'll have drivers that will actually prepare for both, and you'll have a mixed bag of setups through the field that sometimes when you get on a short run, those cars will get to the front and then get a lucky yellow, and then it just kind of reciprocates. As we know, caution's precaution. So this race, if it turns into that, those short run drivers, they're going to turn out the higher up. But if you get on a long run, those are the drivers that towards the end of the race, you'll definitely see how dominant they've been. As far as tonight, it could go either way. A long run would benefit those drivers up at the front of the field because I have a feeling that they're set up for a long run tonight.
Last week, Matthew Robinson won at Indianapolis, his second win of the season, and he did so from the pole. He's the pole sitter here tonight at Bristol. We'll see if he can go coast to coast for the second week in a row as we are green flag racing at the concrete half mile. We got Zoen making a big move back there. I think that was Jordan Stencil. No, I'm sorry. It was actually Zach Cormella, the 4. He dove down low. Whoa, we got a car that's sliding back there, and Kyle Gartner in the 49. These drivers having a little bit of difficulty finding some grip early on, it seems.
It's almost like we're back at the dirt half mile of Bristol where these drivers are just trying to find grip on corner exit. And we're under yellow already. The 3 car back there, James Cato, has been spun around, has actually got a lot of front back end damage and has nailed the 49 of Kyle Gartner. So I don't know if there was some help between those two, but certainly looks like there was some aggression being taken out on the part of the 3 machine.
And there's a lot of front end damage sustained on the front of that 49 of Kyle Gartner. Now, I guess the one blessing with a track like Bristol, you don't necessarily have to have the prettiest looking car to still be up to speed and still be competitive, but obviously you don't want to have this racetrack eat you up this early on in the race. And if we look back at the 49 of Gartner, I mentioned that he was really loose off of turn 4 the previous lap. Looks like he kept dealing with that loose sensation.
He did. He got really loose and then it carried over, and a lot of drivers stacked up, including the 3 car of Cato. So it just a chain reaction crash. It carried over down an entire straightaway, and stuff like that, it's hard to avoid, especially going as fast as you are, and it just nowhere the track clogs up, and that was just a car that was way too loose to be able to save.
I believe the car that was behind Cato was the 42 of Bryce Cobbler, who's actually come down pit road here as well. We're going to go on board with him, and that's another thing about Bristol. It's such a small track with the high banking. If an incident happens in front of you, you got to just get on the brakes and pray you don't hit anything because there's not a lot of room to maneuver.
Indeed so, and especially the high speeds here. We run some of the fastest laps on the season at this racetrack, and especially if something's happening in a turn, that's going to go and track up the racetrack. And as we know, there's a lot of drivers that like to run the high line, and certainly when they see a car spinning on the inside line, they're early in the race. You got to survive, and we're only on lap 5 now running, so long race to go still for these drivers.
So Matthew Robinson and Corey Saucier with the front row. They are going to be the top two. They go back green. Kyle Spees worked up to third place with Bobby Anderson and Zach Camilla in fourth and fifth. It's like we had a couple of drivers come down pit road to get damage repaired, including the 42 of Cobbler. The 49 of Gartner was down pit road. James Cato in the 3. Looked like we had a driver that might have missed the start as well. Simon Morrison in the 34 has now come out onto the track, currently 1 lap down. He'll probably be getting back on the lead lap momentarily here, either under this caution or on the next caution, because he is 1 lap down, so he would be the lucky dog should we get another yellow flag.
Yeah, and that would be a benefit to him getting back on the lead lap after missing the start, and sometimes that can end up being multiple laps down, but thankfully a yellow came out pretty quickly enough for him to be able to get back onto the lead lap. But about ready to set them back up underway. Seth, you've already run through who our top 5 are. What are your predictions? What are we going to see for this opening few laps? We've already had 1 caution. Do we continue like this, or do we get into a green flag run?
Well, one thing that we were just talking about on that last start, the initial start of this race, was the lack of grip drivers seem to have. The more caution laps we run, the cooler these tires are going to get. They got to get themselves into a long green flag run to not have that slippery sensation. So I'm hoping that they kind of learned from that. And right there, you just saw Matthew Robinson spun the tires from the race lead.
Indeed so, and there goes Saucier to the top of the racetrack, going to take that position away. Robinson going to be under fire from the 36. That's Spees, and he's under fire by Camella right now. The 4 has gotten some pretty good speed going ever since having that spin moment coming out of turn 2, but now running down Spees in the 36.
And now you start to see them migrate up to the wall, kind of diamond the corner, drive it in deep, up to the outside retaining wall. Whoa, 36! He's going to gather it back up, gets a hit from behind, and there is going to be a caution for that, even though he didn't go all the way around. That's quite a bit of front-end damage sustained on the front of Bobby Anderson's 18.
That is too, and that could have been bad. That was right at the front of the field between a lot of these drivers, and looks like Kyle Spees might have gotten the worst out of it. Didn't go all the way around, but a lot of damage on the front and back end of that 36 machine.
A little surprised that the caution came out. Spees was actually able to gather the thing back up. Nobody actually wrecked. Nobody really actually spun. Nonetheless, the yellow flag coming out. Here it was going into turn 1. Anderson gets into the back of him. Everybody able to avoid. I'm a little surprised that actually brought out a yellow flag.
It is a little interesting. It did stack up the field behind them, but not enough that I thought would have warranted a yellow. Bobby Anderson and Kyle Spees obviously going to have the worst amount of damage out of what had just happened, but I don't think they've come down pit road yet. At least on my counter, they're still running on the racetrack in 4th and 5th, so this is pretty interesting. I would think that they want to get that damage fixed, but yeah, a very interesting way to throw a yellow.
12 laps in, already working our second caution of the evening, and something that I observed on that last restart, Matthew Robinson decided to restart on the inside line. We saw him spin the tires, and Corey Saucier was able to get the race lead away from him. I have to wonder if maybe there's a little lack of grip for drivers on that inside line, especially on the straightaways, because, remember we were talking about Zach Camella having an issue off the corner. He was running the inside line at that point, and of course the 49 of Gartner, when he had his issue, he was down the inside line. So I'm wondering if there's something down the inside line that's causing these drivers to have that rear wheel spin.
The track certainly looks pretty green at the moment. It doesn't look like there's really an established line that these drivers are going to run on yet. So the inside line, it's a little bit flatter than the upside, than the top of the racetrack. So they might have some struggle for grip down there. And to your point, that's kind of what we see at Bristol throughout many leagues, is on the inside line, especially at places such as Atlanta. It's really easy to spin the tires if you're coming to a restart. On the inside of the racetrack, through the turns, when they're up to full song, it's even worse, because we've seen drivers, they've been spinning from the inside as they make the transition out of the turns onto the straightaways. I would imagine by the end of the race, or about midway through the race, it would get a little better than it is now. Obviously, the track is still building up rubber, but at this stage of the race, I'd almost want to run with a little bit of caution, maybe on the outside of the racetrack. Even though your car might not be set up for the outside of the racetrack, you can still get up there, and it'd be a little better than risking some wheel spin on the inside line.
Only one driver came down pit road under this caution. That was Kyle Gartner, undoubtedly for some more repairs on that 49 machine, but nobody else came down pit road. And, he brought up a couple of the notables there, and Kyle Spees, Bobby Anderson. We know that both of them sustained some damage there. I'm almost wondering, too, about that near spin for the 36, how much that would have cooked those rear tires. I mean, if these drivers right now are lacking for rear grip, the last thing you want is those rear Goodyears to be worn down.
And maybe he's thinking it's heated them up enough that he'll have some better grip, but that's certainly going to have some wear on those tires going forward. Also, the aerodynamic damage he sustained under that last incident, that's going to hurt him a little bit as we get ready to restart. Corey Saucier has chosen the inside line. Does it pay off? He doesn't get that much wheel spin. He's back underway, and now they're side-by-side going into turn one between him and Robinson on the outside. They're still side-by-side going down the back stretch.
Clearing now is Saucier, and it's going to be Camilla who's been the most aggressive on these starts. Oh, we got a wreck back there around 7th. That's Ryan Sizemore. I think he and another car, might have been the 90, got together. We're still green, though. They managed to keep it straight, so no caution will come out. Heck of a save there by Sizemore. He still keeps himself in the top 10. The 90 car, not so lucky. He's dropped back outside of the top 15, I believe.
The 90 right now, according to mine, is running in 8th place. So that would be, that's good recovery for him if he was indeed the one involved in that, although he is having a bit of connection issues. There's a battle right now between Santio and Roberts for the 6th position, and they are beating and banging on each other, getting under the walls right now. This is one of the best battles on the racetrack, and TJ Roberts takes the position away for 6th place. He's trying to get to the front of the field.
Contact, I think, actually was between Ryan Sizemore and the 64 of Jordan Stencil. Stencil was actually the car that lost a lot of ground, fell back to the 19th position. And we got another car in trouble, J.R. Miller in the 78. He's down on the apron for some reason. Then that Amico Sheen looks like, he's got a lot of front-end damage there and is definitely off the pace.
Yeah, that might have been a little bit of contact made. These drivers, when they get side by side, I've noticed a lot of them, they'll make some contact, try to get around each other the old-fashioned way, just bully your way around, but that's not good for the long run. Although I say that, and we were talking about the aerodynamics of Kyle Spees, he's got a ton of rear end damage, and he's still running 4th place up to speed with the leaders. So, and same goes for Bobby Anderson, who's got a lot of front end damage. So maybe the aerodynamics on these cars isn't really that bad if it looks worse than it is, so he might be okay in that 74 machine.
That checkup in the middle of the pack with that near spin really... Oh, we got a caution out, so there goes that theory. DJ Daniel is the reason for this caution. 3-time winner this season. All torn up on the front end.
And that is your points leader coming into this race as well, and that is a lot of damage on the 96 machine, and that could have been something like a stack-up chain reaction that went horribly wrong. We'll have to go back and take a look and see what happened to our points leader, though. I would willing to bet that it was maybe just closing rate on the 8 car.
I think you're exactly right. I think the 8 of Sizemore is going to go up a little wide off the corner, get the wall. 86 tries to get to his inside, and you're absolutely right. I mean, when you get up into the wall, Bristol Motor Speedway hugs your machine. It will not let your race car go, scrubs off a lot of speed, and when a car behind you has been able to power it down and get a run on you, there's a huge difference in miles per hour between your car and the car behind you.
There was at least a 30-mile-an-hour difference when they made the contact initially, and there's nothing that Daniel could have done about that. It was just, you're not expecting him to hit the wall. He might be running a higher line, but there's no way to react in enough time in order to slow down, especially when you've committed to that. And he did. He tried to go to the inside, but it was just that the 8 machine came down too quickly of Sizemore, and there was no way that he was going to be able to get on the brakes in enough time, and that is horrible news for the points leader and multi-time winner this season.
Mentioned about the fact it's not very spacious here at Bristol. When contact's made, it's not going to take you very long to find the inside wall on either the front or back straightaway. And as I mentioned, you don't necessarily have to have the prettiest car to win this race. The thing you do want to make sure you don't do, though, is make heavy contact with the front end of the race car where the engine is housed, because you have engine damage that could be detrimental to the rest of the speed of your race.
Indeed. So although saying that DJ Daniel is back on the racetrack, he has used a fast repair to get that 96 back up to health. So running now 25th on the racetrack. So a long way to go to get back up to where he was running at, but he's got plenty of time to do it. I wouldn't imagine that I'd imagine we'd see him up at the front of the field more quicker than we'd think he would, but he's got a long way to go. The one car that didn't get damage repaired is the 78 of JR Miller. He's still heavily damaged on the 78 machine, but looks like some drivers opting to take a fast repair, some drivers opting not to, and that's a mixed bag of strategy that I don't think we considered.
Yeah, and because JR Miller spent so much time on the apron trying to limp that wounded car to pit road, he lost 3 laps under that green flag run, so he's going to have to wait a couple of cautions to be able to get back on the lead lap with the other 28 drivers that still currently are scored in the same lap as leader Corey Saucier. You talked about the fact that DJ Daniels, the points leader coming into this race, of the drivers inside the top 5 in points, 3 of them have been to victory lane for a total of our 6 races so far. Drivers that have not won, second in points, Christopher Lawrence. He has slowly worked his way up into the top 10, running an 8th. And your race leader is the other one, Corey Saucier, who has 3 top 5s, 4 top 10s in the first 7 races this season. And certainly looks like the momentum is on his side. We've certainly seen here with these early cautions, good qualifying effort and good starting track position really has been important.
Indeed, it has. And Saucier's got a fast car as well. He's been able to make the inside line work on restarts, and more importantly, he's been able to keep the inside line to work during the initial restart opening laps, especially when you're side by side, especially with Robinson on the outside. He's been able to have to take the battle to him, and he's actually been able to do it pretty dominantly, and I would dare say that the 24 is probably one of the fastest cars on the racetrack, but we're going to find out if that is the case. Pace car peels off. We're going to set them back underway one more time. We're going to go back to green flag, lap 30 of 250. We got a long way to go, and I say that, and he spins the tires on the restart.
Absolutely did. You saw the back end wiggling as he was struggling for grip. Robinson will take advantage to the front. Kyle Spees will follow him into second place.
And that's a damaged Kyle Spees as well. The back end still very heavily damaged on the 36 machine, but you wouldn't know it. The caution's out again. That's the 43 that's involved. That's going to be Ryan Phillips, at least one driver involved.
Phillips involved. Kyle Gartner might have gotten another piece, and Gene Cato in the 2 also was involved. The Bass Pro Shops Camaro had to immediately teleport to his pit stall.
That indicates to me that this crash was probably a lot bigger than it looks on the screen, but I had to take a look and see what happened. I saw Ryan Phillips get out of shape. Not sure where he ended up in relation, but yeah, it was all 3 of those drivers that we mentioned. I think that Cato might have started it all.
And he got a little bit of help from behind, the 7 of Josh Anderson getting him. And with oncoming traffic, when the 2 slid back down the racetrack, nowhere to go for the oncoming machines, especially the 43 of Ryan Phillips. A couple of other drivers towards the rear of the field getting swept up in this one. So caution's going to come out for the 4th time here tonight. You know, we talk all the time about Bristol Motor Speedway being a self-cleaning racetrack. That's why if you're running towards the rear of the field, just because someone's up against the outside wall when you're entering into a corner and they're in the corner ahead doesn't mean they're not going to be down in your lane when you eventually get to them.
Yeah, we got a lot of heavy banking on this racetrack, so going from the outside to the inside is not uncommon. And these drivers, when you pick a lane here, you have to stick to it. And that's the way it is at a lot of tracks, but especially at this one, we mentioned it earlier, you can go to the outside line to try and avoid a crash, and then they'll track up the racetrack if they're carrying momentum, and then likewise, they'll go down the hill as well once they're stopped moving. And it is a weird self-cleaning system that this track has kind of developed over time, and it's kind of one of the things that gives it a characteristic. But a lot of drivers, when they do run into this issue, you want to slam on the brakes, but ironically, that's kind of what happened, or that's kind of the cause of some of these drivers spinning around, is that they'll actually lock the front end up, and then the back end will get the air knocked out of it, and they'll spin around. So it's almost a lose-lose position if you're trying to avoid anything at this racetrack, and that's kind of harkens back to what we mentioned about the leaders of this race. They'll have to deal with the traffic, and eventually they'll have to deal with some traffic tonight, and that's why there's no given winner in this one. We still got a long way to go.
One thing that I noticed back on the second restart was when we had that stack up of the near spin, involving the 8 of Ryan Sizemore and the 64 of Jordan Stencil. It checked up everybody behind so much. I think it only took us 5 or 6 laps into that run for the race leader, then Corey Saucier, to catch up to the tail end of the lead lap cars. And so that's something we're going to have to keep an eye on here, too, because we've not yet seen slower traffic come into play. But it's looking like for the time being, most of these race leaders want that outside line driver about to go a lap down to be able to find a way safely to maneuver around each other.
Yeah, the tight racetrack is going to make real estate very, very complicated, but we're back underway. Robinson got a great restart that time around, although Kyle Spees on the outside line got an even better one alongside of the 99, comes to 36, trying to get the momentum out of turn 4. Can he do it? Lead at the line. That's a damaged race car at the lead, and there's a spin by Saucier, and he's gone into the wall.
And he's back up the track, and he's going to collect even more. Big wreck there involving several drivers. I see the 87 of Bailey Galinas. I think there was another car back there, the 79 of James Santoyo, I think, got a piece. There were about 5-6 cars that piled into that one.
Yeah, Ryan Sizemore was one of them in the 8 machine. The 3 of James Cato might have gotten involved in again. Certainly, I think James Santoya might have gotten a piece of it as well. This is a little damage on the 79. The list just keeps going on and on and on. The 24 is involved. We saw him spin around initially, and that's what kind of started all of this.
Trying to figure out what is causing the big issue for these drivers off the corner, and the only thing I can just think of is lack of rear grip. Those tires are spinning, it's causing the rear end to get loose, and then they're having to try and gather it up here on the front straightaway. I mean, it was a long slide for the 24 of Corey Saucier before eventually coming up the track in turn 1.
Yeah, he did. I think it was a little bit of contact that he made as well that kind of provoked the car to start spinning, and then the track just got closed up and there was nowhere for a lot of these drivers to go. The 83 came in and pounded in, and it was almost like he didn't have any brakes. That was can't quite tell who that was. That's a Bud Barnes that came in and just annihilated everyone. The 42 was involved. That's Bryce Poplar. The 19 was involved. The list just keeps going on. There's at least 10 cars involved in this crash.
The driver I saw get a piece of it as he ran into the back of the 43 was the 96 of DJ Daniel, who you already documented has come down pit road and utilized a fast repair.
And that, if it was one of his only fast repairs, if that was the only fast repair, then I think you might have used it a little too quickly, because this has certainly changed the outlook on this race as a whole. And there's a lot of drivers that might be going to their fast repair right now, but man, there's nowhere for these guys to go.
Kyle Spees is going to be the 3rd race leader here tonight. Matthew Robinson now in 2nd. Zach Camella, Christopher Lawrence, and TJ Roberts going to make up the top 5. The 24 that had led a couple of laps here tonight and was up inside of the top 5 for the first 35 laps of this race. He now finds himself back in 13th. However, he did not come to pit road here under this caution period. So kind of pulling a Kyle Spees from the 2nd yellow of the night. Not coming down, not repairing the damage, just keeping whatever track position he can as he's still inside the top 15.
Indeed, I think he might be holding on to a fast repair, trying to make sure that he's got enough that if he needs another one later, then he's got it. DJ Daniel, you saw on the inside of the racetrack, was just waiting for the field to go around so he can get his spot back in line. So a lot of cleanup to do after this one, and I dare say that was a wake-up call to some of these drivers. It might be time to take it a little bit easy, because we're on lap 41 of 250. We said it once, and we'll say it again, but this is a battle of attrition. This is a battle of endurance, and so far these drivers at the front of the pack make that the top 5 have really been able to hold on. Someone has just shown his face in the top 5, though. Give the 97 some credit. Brock Salvati, he is now running in 5th place on the inside line, or make that the outside line. So, give a shout out. He's made his way up into the top 6, certainly on the cusp of the top 5. He might be a factor later on in the race.
Brock Salvati, up till tonight, had only made 5 of the 7 starts this season, but currently sits 26th in the point stands and has been slowly climbing his way up through, trying to get himself there into the top 16 for a playoff position as the green flag back in the air. 40 laps completed. We're now completing lap 42 on to 43, so we've almost reached 20% of the way through this race. Still a long ways to go in this one as Matthew Robinson will go back to the point, and caution is out again.
And that is the 42 of Bryce Cobbler that finds himself a little bit slow, and someone else is spinning back there. That's the 98 again of Jeremy. Actually, that's Jeremy Richmond. He started up in the top 10, I think.
And James Cato was facing the wrong way there as well, over in turns 3 and 4. There is the 98 of Jeremy Richmond. Having a lot of wrecks and then follow-up wrecks. That's definitely a theme that we're seeing here tonight at Bristol.
Indeed so, and I think I know what happened with this one. The 88 got a little bit too high on the racetrack and pinged off the wall and got down into the 98. So Noah Owens is the cause of this one.
79 got a piece of it there of James
Whoa.
Santoyo.
He went flying. I don't know if you saw Owens go up in the air, but that was some major air that the 88 got.
I think we missed it there on that camera shot, so we'll go and take another look as Noah Owens, 14th in the point standings, down around that cut line area for a playoff position. And oh wow, you're right, that was a shot he took into the outside wall.
He almost went up into the catch fence with that shot. I couldn't quite tell who that was that hit him.
That was the 3. I think that was James Cato.
That is how Cato got involved, and then he ramps off the 49 as well. So, man, that's I don't think I've seen somebody at Bristol get that much air from such a little hit before. That was, by all due respects to the drivers that were running, they were on the brakes. That wasn't a very fast crash when Cato finally got there. So, I've never seen that much air gotten off of a hit like that.
They may call it the world's fastest half mile, but they don't go fast enough that you would expect to see a car go airborne. There's the shot right there as we were on board with James Cato underneath of the 88 of Noah Owens and sending him up and into the air. All 4 Goodyears did indeed leave the racing surface. And you talked about this being a race of attrition here, Anthony. I mean, there's a lot of drivers already in these first 50 laps that we have mentioned multiple times involved in wrecks. Especially when we get to the second half of this race, it's not going to be a surprise when we start to see that garage area start filling up more and more.
Indeed, and right now we only have one driver that has DNF from the race, and that was Simon Morrison, who never really got his race started to begin with, so he'll have to settle for 30th place tonight. But all the drivers that took the start are still running on the racetrack, albeit some of them multiple laps down. We have Bud Barnes, for example, that's 9 laps down. You've got Gene Cato now that has found himself 4 laps down. And then you've got 3 drivers that find themselves 1 lap down, that being that's not DJ Daniel, it'll be Jeremy Richmond, Noah Owens, and JR Miller that find themselves a lap down. Everyone else, though, 24 drivers still on the lead lap. A multitude of different looking bodies on these cars, as a lot of them have accumulated different forms of damage, including the leader for a moment, Kyle Spies, who has still got some damage on that 36 machine. Still up to speed, though, so it doesn't seem like it's hurt him much.
Of the 24 drivers on the lead lap, DJ Daniel, the points leader, will be one of them as he got the lucky dog under this 6th caution of the evening. Robinson will get us back underway with Kyle Spies to his outside. Zach Camella, Christopher Lawrence, and TJ Roberts going to be the top 5 as the green flag back in the air as we close in on lap number 50.
And Robinson got one whale of a restart, has actually left Spies in the dust, and now Camella is trying to get up to him, but also under fire from Christopher Lawrence in the 9, just trying to make some laps, and everyone filing single file. There's some rubber being laid down on the track. You can kind of see where the gray line is starting to get a little bit more noticeable, so that maybe the grip is getting better for these drivers to be able to put down some major lap times now.
They've gotten a little bit single filed out here, at least amongst the top 10. You got to go all the way back to around the 12th, 13th position where the double wide racing is going on. James Santoyo, man, he pushed up the track there right in front of Phillips as he was trying to get the 13th position away from Bailey Galinas.
Bailey Galinas is on a tear right now, going to the inside of the 8 of Sizemore, now to the inside of the 24 of Saucier. He's going to set his sights now on Clifford Corveau, and this is something he must be on fresh tires, because he is putting them down like they're nothing. He's got no damage on that car, but I don't think that he might be the fastest car on the racetrack right now.
I think to your point, he has actually been to pit road, might have some fresh tires to work with. He was last on pit lane 14 laps ago, and it looks like he would have been there long enough to put some fresh Goodyears on that machine. Another driver that's boogieing up to the front, Corey Saucier, who we saw bring out a caution not too long ago, was all the way back in the 19th position, has worked his way to 11th.
Yeah, he's trying to recover from that incident. He's got basically no front or rear end on that car, but it doesn't seem like it slowed him down much at all. Side-by-side battle behind him, though, between Sizemore and Ryan Phillips, the 8 and the 43, and it looks like that Phillips is going to get the better end of that deal on the inside line. There's significantly less damage on that race car than the 8. The 42 now joins the fight. That's Cobbler trying to, oh, the 8's up in the wall, but he stays off of it, but that Bristol wall stuck in the contact.
Almost got a little help around by Santoyo, but they managed to keep it straight for the time being. This is a battle right now for the 17th position. These guys are racing each other like it's for the race lead.
It looks like a bunch of modifieds racing out there. The front end's missing off a lot of cars, and it's making for some good racing as you see in front of them. Even Kyle Gertner has gotten a lot of his car missing, but he's taking the fight to Zachary Woods at the moment, but the yellow is out for the 5 machine again.
Chris Hubka as well as Angel Santiago here on the front straightaway will bring out the 7th caution of the night. Longest green flag run we had right there, and a guy that's got to be kind of looking up at the sky and saying, why was Bailey Galinas? Because he was setting quite a blistering pace. I have a feeling with how good he was going, he probably was going to be our new race leader within 10 laps.
Absolutely. He's on the freshest tire strategy right now, as he's been the only one to come down pit road since the race began, but I think this wasn't the cause of the 5. I believe that looking at it, I think it was just 2 cars getting into each other's business, that being the 88 and the 90.
Drivers won the same piece of real estate. The 90 kind of pushed up off of turn 4. The 88 was cutting it low on his exit, and the 2 of them make contact. It's Angel Santiago that's going to get the worst end of it. Been fighting connection issues the entirety of this race so far, and now ends up with quite a bit of front-end damage.
I don't think the Santiago ever lifted. I think he just went straight on. That car, I don't know if it's set up to be tighter than anything, but the Owens came down the racetrack just a little bit, but I don't think that Santiago had any chance to really slow down for it. And that's unfortunately also brought in the 5 as well, and then more contact was made back behind them. But again, it's 3 cars. They almost went 3 wide, so it's just 3 cars trying to share the same piece of real estate.
We don't really know the fuel window for these drivers, but we do have some of our race leaders that have come down pit road, including Kyle Spies, Corey Saucier, Kyle Gartner has also come down pit road. Christopher Lawrence, who was up inside of the top 10, is down pit lane, and looks like these are 4 tire stops that are taking place here, Anthony. So if we kind of gauge that these drivers are looking about maybe 60 to 80 laps that they can make it on a tank of fuel, basically looking at 3 pit stops in this race.
Yeah, that would make sense for these drivers to do that. And I think that these drivers are coming down pit road because they saw just how fast fresh tires will make you on the racetrack. I mean, they saw that Bailey Quilanes was coming through the field very rapidly in the 87. So I wouldn't imagine that they are going to be wanting to wait around for some fresh tires, because you can get fast on this racetrack if you have fresh rubber.
Linus will be restarting in the 5th position and has 39 lap fresher tires than the 4 drivers ahead of him: Robinson, Camilla, TJ Roberts, and Rock Salvati. The lucky dog under this caution, I believe, went to the 49 of Kyle Gartner, so that will leave us with 23 drivers on the lead lap. Chris Hubka lost a lap, as did Angel Santiago, with not being able to get their cars refired before the leaders got around them when that caution came out. So they'll be 1 lap down apiece, along with J.R. Miller and Noah Owens. Gene Cato still running 4 laps down, and Bud Barnes spent a long time on pit lane, and he is going to find himself 22 laps down to the race leader. But we say this all the time, Anthony, whether it's a short track, a super speedway, a mile and a half, even if your car is damaged, as long as that engine can run, you turn all the laps. Because with this being a race of attrition, there's no saying that a driver that right now finds himself outside the top 20 couldn't be finishing inside the top 10 at the end of this race.
Well, certainly Galinas was running outside the top 15 for most of the opening few laps, and now here he is running up within the top 6. So plenty of time to make up some ground. We're back underway. Robinson, another great restart, gets about 3 or 4 car lengths back to Camella, who's just quietly ran in the top 3, not really making a whole lot of noise in that 4 machine, but now trying to run down the leader of Robinson. Back behind him, TJ Roberts. Then you have Galinas, who's running down him. And then back there, you got Brock Savani in a side-by-side battle with Josh Anderson trying to make up a position.
Riding inside of the 87 of Galinas with those fresh tires, watching the hands to see just how steady this car is in terms of off the corner. Not seeing a whole lot of counter steering going on, so it looks like that car pretty stable underneath him as he now puts the pressure on TJ Roberts for third. Almost thought about using the chrome horn there.
Yeah, he was super close to that. Camella in front of him gets the wall and is still getting the wall in front, so that might be a little bit of an issue for these drivers as they're still running nose to tail between the 87 and the 11. That is for third place, and right now Galinas is there. He wants around TJ Roberts, but Roberts taking the fight, gets a little bit high on the racetrack with some on the damage, but we're under yellow, and I think this is for the 98.
98 and the 82. That's Jeremy Richmond and Joey Wright. And Joey Wright has taken a heck of a hit as smoke starts erupting from underneath the right rear quarter panel of his car.
And that is signaling possibly a day over unless they can get a fast repair on that machine. But that must have been a hard hit if they're getting some black smoke coming out of that car.
Take a look and see what kind of impact caused such a catastrophic end to the 82 machine. Oh wow, he took a shot into the inside wall, that's for certain, as to look at it. And I believe it was almost 3 wide off of turn 2. There's just no way that's gonna work. 99 gets bounced into, he gets hooked up the track into the 82, then slammed the inside wall full speed.
Yeah, Joey Wright went straight into the inside wall, no slowing down for that machine, and then was lucky to not get hit again after the initial contact, but that car is definitely worse for wear. They're going to have to repair that damage, whether they like it or not, and that might be using a fast repair, and if they only have one, then that is going to be, you're going to want to be babying this car around the track for the rest of the race, but man, that hit, that was a major hit.
You saw he was at about 8,000 RPMs when he came off the corner. The point of impact, he was still at about 6,500 RPMs. So hardly any lift going on there as he was trying to get the thing pointed the correct direction, and hard impact with the front end of his Ford. Now going to find him multiple laps down. It looks like if he had a fast repair available, he either decided not to use it or maybe he didn't even have one, because he still sits on pit road and currently scored 3 laps down as we still run under pacing.
Yeah, we've well, you might be wanting to save it, though at this point in the race, if you have to do some damage repair on your engine, it's going to cost you more than if you were to just use your fast repair and get on the racetrack. So not sure what is the status of that, but he is the only one right now, other than the 64 of Jordan Stencil. There's a lot of drivers on pit road right now that are leaving, Stencil being the last one out, but so far it looks like that he is going to be the only one occupying pit road aside from Jeremy Richmond, who's also sitting on pit road getting some fresh tires on his 98 machine. So myriad of different things going on pit road, and we've got a lot of drivers that want to get back to racing because that was a good green flag run, and the person who's liking this is going to definitely be Matthew Robinson because he's got a fast car on restarts. That's well documented. Zach Camella has definitely got a longer run setup on his 4 machine because Robertson gets away from him, but as soon as the laps start ticking away, that's when the 4 car really opens up and starts catching up. So right now, Matthew Robinson is praying that this race keeps having cautions happen because he's loving the fact that he can get away from the 4 car and just basically ride off these yellows.
So far, we've had a number of drivers come down pit road in these 8 cautions, some of them by choice, most of them pretty much forced down there to get damage repaired. 8 drivers are yet to come to pit lane since we started this event. They include the top 3 and 4 of the top 5. And right now, they are reaping the benefits of the track position and staying ahead of the mayhem. And I think that's just the strategy for these drivers. Stretch it as far as you can go until you absolutely have to come to pit lane because you don't want yourself to put yourself back in that traffic.
Oh, look at the wheel spin that Robinson got on that inside line. It's still playing havoc, and now Camella gets the lead, and through goes Galinas as well. Now, Galinas has got much fresher tires than Camella does. Does he go for the lead? Oh, he almost thought about using the front end of his car, but backs out away from it. He's definitely got the faster car, but Camella's got the advantage of being able to put his car on the outside line, and that's where it seems that the 87's got all the speed. Does he get there now? Oh, he's trying.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, you can definitely see where those fresh tires gain you the advantage off corner exit because those rear tires, when they grip, he's going about 2-3 miles per hour faster off of turn 2 and 4 than the race leader Camella.
And he's trying to figure out a way that he can time the run so he can get to the inside. That's about the only place that you're going to be able to make the pass. Look at the amount of ground he covers up here. He's sent it to the outside. Oh, there was a bit of a block from Camella, but he's going to just get in front. And now here comes Robinson trying to take back second place after he lost the lead on the restart.
Caution, but we did have an issue with the 57 of Clifford Corbeau. He was down on the low side off the pace. He's now been able to get the thing back up to speed, but drops back. Last car on the lead lap to the 23rd position. Battle for the lead's back on again. It's going to be Bailey Galinas taking the inside line this time.
Can he get the run out, or does he track up to the outside of the racetrack? He's there. Can he hold it to the inside line? Camilla on the outside. Can he hold it up there? And he has. Still side by side. Here comes Robinson now to try and get to the outside of the 87. Now they got slow traffic coming up. This is going to play into more havoc, and Galinas almost loses it out of turn 3.
Had to give room to Josh Anderson on the bottom and then almost slid up into Camella for the race lead. Now he's starting to lose ground as Camella's got issues. He's got the tail end of the field here. That's the 83 of Bud Barnes, multiple laps down. He'll move out of the way, but as we start getting closer to wads of traffic, it's not going to be easy for drivers to get out of the way of the race leaders, who right now throw a blanket over the top four as TJ Roberts has joined the mix.
Camilla got a piece of the wall going through that turns 1 and 2, and now Robinson is caught right back to the back bumper of that 4 machine. Now Galinas is still there. This top 3 is still fighting, and meanwhile you've got 4th place TJ Roberts running them down. So this is going to be a 4-car fight for the lead as they have to get through traffic.
Oh, you saw the back end step out there. Oh no, the race leader right in front of the top 4. Zach Camilla has gotten spun around in turn 3.
And that is what we meant by you're not safe no matter where you are on the racetrack. The leader spins and gets some damage on the back end, but it doesn't look like a lot of damage on the back end, but still, a battle for first place ends in tragedy for the 4 machine.
Car that he got up into was the 87 of Bailey Galinas. And then we saw a little bit of contact maybe as we were on board with TJ Roberts in the 11. We'll go back and see what happened. But you're right, Anthony. Nobody is safe because that is the second caution tonight that has happened up inside of the top 3.
And this one was for the battle for the lead, and it looks like that the 99 of Robinson just took a hole where he thought he could fit his car and then just tracked up the racetrack ever so slightly and gets a piece of the 4 car, sends him up into the wall, and then the 87 of Galinas comes in and gets a piece of it as well. Good on the 42 of Bryce Cobbler for getting on the brakes and avoiding the spinning Camella, though. That was a good piece of heads-up driving.
And it allowed Camella to gather the car back up and maintain a spot inside of the top 5, still running in the 4th position. And going back there to the contact between Camella and Robinson, I mean, he left him a lane. Camella, he left him a lane down low. Robinson was going to take it, and then Camella came down to try and stop his momentum, try and block, and you run the risk that that car on the inside line is going to get so much of a run that you're going to go around off their nose. So that's the thing that these drivers have to worry about here tonight as well, is the ability to clear themselves. Some of these drivers have spotters that are able to tell them if a car's they're inside or what kind of a run they're getting, but for those that don't, they have to use their judgment, and a lot of stuff happens fast here at Bristol.
Indeed it does. And now we've got pit stops happening within the lead group, and interestingly enough, there's been a couple of drivers that haven't opted for a pit stop thus far in the race. The leader, Matthew Robinson, has yet to come to pit road. He's on an 87 lap stint at the moment, and back a little ways in 5th place, you've got Bobby Anderson in the 18 that's found himself in the top 5 now, heavily damaged 18 at that. So both of those drivers still with a lot of damage, and this is going to benefit Galinas because he is definitely the fastest car within the top 5 at the moment. Corey Saucier finds himself in 3rd place, a massive drive to get back up into the top 5.
Absolutely. After being involved in a wreck when he spun from the 2nd position, dropped outside the top 15, and now finds himself in 3rd place. Of the drivers up inside of the top 10, he is the highest up with fresh tires. Ryan Sizemore right behind him as well. Both these drivers 26-lap old tires. To Bailey Galinas 50-lap old tires ahead of them, and Matthew Robinson, who, as you documented, has not come to pit road since we started this race.
And he is going to be on the inside line yet again. It's a 50-50 shot of whether you spin the tires or not. We'll have to see if he does it this time. But if memory serves and history repeats itself, he's going to try his best, but it might spin. And that's going to be something that Sizemore and Saucier might want to have happen because they'll be able to get around him. Now, Robinson's got a fast car. He can get back up to the lead as we've seen, but does he spin the tires? We're going to find out. We're about ready to go back to green.
3 cars in the lead lap. Noah Owens got the free pass under this yellow, and they stack up from 4th place. That's Sizemore who spun the tires. He got up into the wall. Everyone scatters to avoid him. I think they got through it cleanly, but man, that was a tough thing for everybody to make sure that another caution didn't come out.
It didn't pay off for Robinson, though, because Galinas was able to get around him easily and now takes the lead of the race. A good 5-car length gap between him and Robinson. Now Saucier's coming up to try and take 3rd place or 2nd place, but it won't matter. The caution flies for the 2 machine of Gene Cato.
2nd time tonight, at least, that Gene Cato has been involved in something, and I also saw another driver that appeared to be slow on the telemetry that might have gotten a piece of it. So this may have been a multi-car incident, but the 2 of Cato is the one that's going to be slowly leaving the scene of the accident. We'll go back and see what happened.
I just went back and saw a little piece of it, and it's involving a familiar car that we've seen all race long. I think it's the 4 car that gets a little bit of contact with the 2 and spins them around.
And the other car that got involved was the 90 of Angel Santiago. He got sent up into the outside wall heading into 3. He might have actually collected up another car there. And I think that the 4 actually dropped back to where he was, Zach Camella, based off the stack up that they had on the restart with Sizemore in the 8.
Yeah, he might have done that, and that was just a hard shot for him to try and get around he had a fast car. He was trying to weed his way through the field and just kind of mistimed it, and innocent bystander in all this is definitely going to be the 70, or make that the 90 of Santiago and the 43 of Ryan Phillips, who come clobbering in. But it's a weird place to find yourself if you're Camella, because you were trying your best to get around and not get involved, and now you find he was just a stack up. There's really nothing he could have done about that one.
Last week, we went caution-free at Indianapolis. Here tonight so far, in the first 100 laps, we have run 49 of them under yellow with 10 cautions. However, it seems like it's been difficult for drivers to keep the race lead here as well with these restarts. 5 drivers have been out in front for 9 lead changes, which you see right there, the average speed about a little tick under 126 miles per hour. We've yet to really get into a long green flag run. We've had 2 decent green flag runs, but quite a bit of this has been under pacing. You got to wonder what this is setting the table for in the second half of the race too, Anthony, because we know that when we get to the second half, all bets are off and the aggressive level kicks up.
Yeah, especially if we're seeing it the way that we're seeing it right now, where it's just lap after lap, all-out aggressive racing, then once we get down to crunch time with about 50 laps to go, it's going to be even worse than that, and these drivers are going to be making desperate moves to try and get positions for the finish of the race. At the moment, though, everyone's trying to keep it as clean as possible. The issues that we're seeing is that, again, the traction that these drivers are getting, or rather not getting, is causing some stack-ups, and at this track, it's really hard to just find a position that you can try and pass somebody when someone stacks up. We've seen just now with the previous crash, there was nowhere for Camilla to go. He was just trying to find a way to avoid the stack up in front of him and ended up getting contact. So between the low grip and the fact that this track is small and the closing rate for these drivers is millimeters between each other, then there's really nothing you can do except try to run your best race. But about 150 laps to go, just north of 150 laps to go, do these drivers maybe try to get into a long green flag run? And when does Matthew Robinson pit?
Robinson and Anderson both still to come to pit lane. They're about to try and stretch this at least 100 laps. The green flag back in the air. Bailey Galinas, who's only making his second start of the season, ran back at the Charlotte Oval in March where he finished top 10 in 9th place. Leads us back to the green, but he's got a challenge on the top side. Those old tires of Matthew Robinson have the counter of the top side to be able to hold the race lead.
The top side is definitely the fastest way around the racetrack, and to the front, Robinson makes it look like those are fresh tires. And now, whoa, Galena sailed it in. He was trying to make a move. Here comes Saucier. He went all the way back down to about 16th at one point in this race. Now finds himself back in the top 3, trying to run down Galenas. Kyle Spees now trying to get back up within the top 3 as he's running in 4th. And Bobby Anderson in a very damaged 18 machine. It almost looks like a modified running around there, but he's in 5th place, running down some pretty competitive laps. Also hasn't pitted yet this race.
Saucier and Spees have had to work their way back up into the top 20, now find themselves in the top 5. And how about 8th place DJ Daniel, who was involved in a wreck early on, actually had to get the lucky dog at one point. He's now cracked the top 10, the 8th place, and they're wrecking ahead of him. That was Sizemore into the wall again.
Sizemore, I don't think he went around, but the 21 of Jeffrey Vickery is going around, and that's going to be a yellow.
Jeffrey Vickery is going to spin it out. I couldn't tell if anybody else was swept up into that or not. Might have just been a solo car spin, but it was in the middle of the corner, so there might have been some innocent victims caught up in this one. 11th caution of the night is going to fly as we have just crossed the 100 lap threshold.
This was more or less a reaction to what was happening in front of Vickery, and I think that he's going to try to duck down to the inside of the racetrack, and then the 79 gets contact, and they both go, or rather Vickery goes spinning around, but it looked like a pretty harmless crash other than that. But Santoyo is going to be the reason why the 21 goes sideways.
At 8 of Ryan Sizemore. I think he's on a first name basis with the outside wall. He has brushed it quite a bit here tonight, and it was him being in the wall that was the reactionary move of Vickery, moving down and spinning off the nose of the 79 car. But based off of some of the hits we've seen here tonight, if we can call it tame, that was a relatively tame yellow flag there.
That was, and the 11 was swept up in that as TJ Roberts, and then somebody else was involved. I couldn't quite tell who it was, but we do know of at least 4 drivers that were involved in that crash, including Vickery, Roberts, and the 79 machine. So that could have been much worse. We've certainly seen cars flying already this race. So as far as that goes, if you can come out of it relatively unscathed, and that's I think what all these drivers are hoping for. But Vickery's now on pit road. Bailey Galinas is now the leader. I got to give a shout out to somebody who's running right now in the top 10 that I don't think that we expected to be running in the top 10. 2 drivers, really. James Santoyo in the 79, who was involved in that crash, is actually running 4th place at the moment after some drivers have come down pit road, including the leader of most of this race, the 99 of Robinson, has finally come to pit road. So he's going to be restarting in 16th place, does the 99. A long way to go to get back to the front, but Santoyo finds himself in 4th place. And then you've got Clifford Corriveau running in the 9th place in the 57. I don't think we've mentioned his name in the top 10 before, so good run right now for the 57.
And Clifford Corriveau, along with a couple of other drivers that I'm noticing here, Bryce Cobbler, who's behind him in 10th, and Noah Owens, who's in 11th. These are drivers that come into this race right around that 16th in the point standings cut line. I know that it's still early on in the season to be talking playoffs, but as we document, in other series, usually it's the finishes towards the beginning of the year that actually translate into whether you're going to make the playoffs later on that season. A 10th place as opposed to a 9th place could be the 1 point difference into whether you're going to be in the postseason or not. And how about another driver that's worked his way to the front? Kyle Gartner, we saw him without a front end all the way back on lap 2. He's now up in the top 10 in 6th place.
Yeah, that green 49 is certainly showing his presence late in the first half of this race. So he might be one of those drivers to take the lead of the race, as he has got the freshest tires within the top 10, does that 49. But Bailey Galinas and Corey Saucier is going to be our top 2 when we come down to take the green flag yet again. It'll be on lap 107 out of 250. Who gets the advantage, or does the 60 of Zachary Woods have something for these drivers? I didn't even realize he was in the top 10.
Well, he just was really slow there on that start. I'm not certain. I think he actually dove down to the inside to get out of the way of everybody behind him. So he's going to drop outside of the top 15, now outside of the top 20.
Battle for the lead between Saucier and Galena. Saucier trying to get to the inside. Saucier's got the fresher tires, but as we saw earlier with Robinson, it didn't seem to matter if your tires were 100 laps old or 50 laps old or even fresh tires, because at least Robinson made it look easy. And now Galinas is doing the exact same thing, as Saucier's not being able to find a way around him. Here comes Kyle Gartner trying to catch up to these top 2. He's showing his presence.
Now it's looking like if you can hold the top side, you can keep in your rearview mirror, because nobody has really been able to make the inside line work, especially through the corners, having to lift and not able to get back to the throttle as soon as they would like on corner exit.
Yeah, and that is crucial to be able to hold the advances of the guys behind you, especially if you're someone like Galinas, who has actually gotten really slow. I think he might have just brushed a piece of the wall ever so slightly. Here comes Gardner, trying to get these top 2 a little bit out of shape. To the inside, Saucier's there. He's going to try and get the run out, but not enough momentum. Does he carry it into turn 2? I think he might. He's certainly trying his hardest.
They call this the last great Coliseum, and these drivers are not going to be afraid to use these cars as a way of moving their competition out of the way. I'm almost wondering if you're going to get that inside line to work, you might actually have to drive it in deep, either try and pull a slide job or slide up, kill the momentum of that car on the outside line through the center of the corner. But either way, you're running a risk that you might be wrecking yourself in the process.
An extreme diamond approach to these turns is something that these drivers might have in their arsenal for late in the race, where there's maybe only 10 laps left and you try it and see what happens, but certainly not at this point in the race. You don't want to do it, as now Gardner's trying the inside of Saucier. This is a good 3-way battle for the lead of the race between these 3, and you got to go a little ways back before we find 4th place running TJ Roberts, who was involved in that last crash. He was swept up in it, but it doesn't seem like it slowed down his momentum any at all. He's now running in 4th place. And now in 5th place is Brock Salvati in the 97. So he's got a good run going right now. And I wouldn't be surprised if he's going to be a force to be reckoned with later on in the race, because he's putting down some fast laps.
Keep an eye on the top 10 section on the left side of your screen. The 99 of Matthew Robinson is rapidly climbing up the leaderboard. He's now moved to 7th. He's putting the pressure on Bryce Cobbler for the 6th position, and remember, he's got those fresh tires because he was just on pit road under the last caution.
Only 14 laps on those tires right now. He's making it look easy to the inside of the 42 of Bryce Cobbler, although Bryce is taking the fight to him, not really living up that spot easily, but has to concede the position to the 99. There's just no way you're going to be able to hold that much momentum on the advancements of the 99. I gotta make a bit of a credit to the 49 car of Gardner. I just looked at the stats. He's been on pit road a total of 10 times so far. So any damage that he's got repaired, I want to say that he's done it without using a fast repair. So he might have one in the books for later on, as Corey Saucier gets a piece of the wall trying to get around Galinas. But what do you think about Gardner? Do you think that was a smart idea on his part? As the 87 slides up and we have contact, but no caution yet. Gardner to the outside, and now it's going to take 2nd.
And why we ended up kind of having the issue forced right there is because these top 4, they're about to catch up to the tail end of the lead lap. But back to your point there about Gardner, I mean, I love the fact that he spent so much time getting that car repaired here under these yellow flags. He ran the risk, though, of being towards the back, that he'd get involved in future cautions, but has done a tremendous job of getting through them. And if he has indeed not used a fast repair yet here tonight, tremendous credit to him and to that pit crew for getting this car back to a race-winning capable machine. He's actually going to go to the point. Clifford Corvo's going to be a pick, and it's going to be the 49 moving to the race lead for the first time tonight.
There was nowhere for Galinas to go to try and get around Corvo, and now here comes Gardner trying to put down the 98 a lap down. That'd be Jeremy Richmond. Now the leaders are going to have to figure out their way around traffic. It's hard enough to get around each other, but now when you throw the mix of having to get around traffic and back there, Saucy, you're almost got involved with Galinas. There was almost a lot of contact. Here comes TJ Roberts into the mix now, and don't look now, Matthew Robinson.
Oh, we got a wreck. Bobby Anderson in the 18 is spun around, and the caution is going to fly.
And that breaks the momentum that these drivers had, but that is a blessing in disguise for some of these drivers because they didn't want to have to get around some of these lap traffic. They were having a struggle to get around it, but Gardner's going to be the leader. That might have been some help. I don't know if that was just wreck avoidance or did he get the wall?
Take a look and see. Also a blessing for a couple of drivers that were in danger of going a lap down. Oh, he definitely got some help. Not certain which car it was that helped him around. Might have been the 82. Oh, this? Have to look at another camera angle. The 18 might have gotten loose off the corner, but definitely hooked to the left about halfway down the front straightaway, and off the nose of the 82 car of Joey Wright went Bobby Anderson.
That's a bit suspicious, is it not?
It is. I'm going to just quickly go back a little bit further here, just to see if the 18 and the 82 were around each other previously, and if there might have been something that boiled over from that, and it's not looking like, at least right now on this green flag run, that the two of them were in the same vicinity. But we'll take a look at another camera angle coming off the corner, because we have seen drivers have the back end step out of them on corner exit, so that could have been something as simple as that, and just wrong place, wrong time for the 82, but again, it's Bristol, it's a short track, and we know the old adage that short tracks breed short tempers.
I'm on board with Joey Wright at the moment.
Well, that car got loose.
Yeah, he was just trying to hold on for dear life at that point. He was trying to correct it, and that is an image. I don't know if you're looking at it than I am, but that was on board, just seeing the 18 slide in onto your front end. That's a sight that you don't want to see, and that was what a sight out of the front windshield for the 82 of Wright.
Tough break there for Bobby Anderson, as there you just see the car just got light on him off the turn, and yeah, just wrong place, wrong time for the 82 car, who's just out there trying to finish this race 7 laps down. It is Joey Wright, after spending a tremendous amount of time on pit road, getting damage and his engine repaired, and collected up in this, our 12th caution of the evening. I believe at the first car 1 lap down when that yellow came out was the 98 of Jeremy Richmond, so he will be the lucky dog. That caution coming out just a little too late for the 57 of Clifford Corvo, and I'm also seeing the 4 car of Zach Camilla, who was up inside of our top 5 in the first 50 laps of this race. He's actually scored a lap down right now as well.
He's had some bad luck, hasn't he? He's not, ever since he had that spin, he's not been able to recover. He's running 24th at the moment. Not really sure if he's come down pit road to get some damage repair. He's been showed on pit road twice so far, so a little bit more than the average, but it's just a little bit strange that he hasn't been able to make up that ground again as they're getting ready to stack up and go back to green flag racing. But that is certainly something that I didn't expect to see, that Corvo has been, or not Corvo, but Camilla has been having so many problems since the restart. But Corey Saucier and Kyle Gartner, except in reverse order, will be getting us back to green flag racing. Here we go. Whoa, the big stack up at the front of the field, and the 11's gone around at the restart.
TJ Roberts from the 5th position, actually correction, 3rd position, spins out, and there's a lot of drivers in that one. I see Spees in the 36, the 96 of DJ Daniel, and that may not be even the full extent of drivers collected up in this one, as I saw at least 3 cars get out of shape, including the 49, the 11, and the 42.
I'll tell you where it started. It started with the race leader. He spun the tires in a major way, trying to get the power down, and it just rippled effect through the rest of the field. So Gardner starts it, gets some contact back from the 11. Back there, the I believe that was, can't quite tell who that was. That was the 42 that started spinning around as well. It was just chaos at the start, and everyone just piled in. There was nowhere for anyone to go.
That was the 97 of Brock Silvati that got into the back of TJ Roberts, spun him around, and we're going to take a look and see what happened to both Kyle Spies and DJ Daniel, two drivers that come into this race inside the top 5 in the point standings. Daniel, of course, the points leader, Spies 4th in the standings, and both of them have had their fair share of contact early on this race.
It has not been a good day for drivers inside the top 10 for points, and it just the struggles continue to happen as DJ Daniel just loops it around. He actually was trying to get around everyone, just not really. It wasn't really a gap that he could get around. He was just trying to make it out as best as he could. Gets clipped and then pounds right into the 36. And I don't think he has any fast repairs available. I think these drivers are only limited to 1. So that is going to be the way that 96 car looks for the rest of the race.
Daniel tried going around the top side. Spies tried going around the inside, and I think he also got clipped by the 11 of Roberts. And the good news, at least with it being a restart, these drivers were not fully up to speed, so everybody's able to get on the brakes, and both Daniel and Spies did not get hit by any fast oncoming traffic.
Yeah, we haven't even said the extent of what has happened in that last wreck. Basically, anyone 5th on back, you could just chalk off was involved in that crash in some way or another, because it was just chaos at the restart of the race. And if Bristol is, we said it earlier in the night, if you're just joining us, we said earlier in the night that Bristol is one of those tracks where it's so thin that you can barely make any evasive maneuver if something happens. You do have the apron that you can jet to, and there's a lot of drivers that were going to that apron to try and avoid the crash on the restart, but there's the pit walls that you have to deal with, and if you mistime it, you might end up getting hit from the right side or in the left rear quarter panel and getting shot into the inside wall. So there's really nowhere safe on this racetrack. It's kind of like a mini Dover in a sense, where the walls just close in on you and there's nowhere to go, and the track is constantly banked around the racetrack. So being able to find real estate on the track and make it so you stay going the right direction is a feat in of itself.
As you saw there, we have matched number of cautions to number of lead changes here tonight, 13 apiece in each category, as our front row to start this race is now inverted, but is our front row here getting ready for our 12th restart of the evening. Corey Saucier now over Matthew Robinson leading us to green, but that 99 is up here on the freshest tires. 33 laps on his Goodyears as opposed to the 75 that Corey Saucier has put on his tires. Green flag back in the air. Both drivers seem to get a decent start, maybe a little sluggish on the 24.
Yeah, there was some wheel spin on the part of Saucier, and now Robinson to the outside, trying to just hold the outside line with ease. Is going to hold the outside line, in fact, and gets around and is now pulling away from Saucier. And now Saucier is just kind of running a no man's land, but he's got about.
Oh! And Sizemore attempting the slide job. It worked, but he knocked down the wall over in turn 2.
And he's still hugging the outside wall right now, trying to stay in front of the 43 as they almost collide on the front straightaway. But those drivers, man, you can look at these drivers right now. There's more front ends missing in this part of the field than I've ever seen in one single race before in my entire life. Ryan Phillips has got no front end on his car. The 9 machine has got no front end on his machine. That's Lawrence running right there. And Lawrence is running second in the standings. He's trying to get back up to see if he can keep it. There's contact. I think that was the 97 that's in the wall right now. There's certainly someone spinning.
7 car as well, Josh Anderson. He's going to get a hit from Hubka late, as he also made contact with another machine prior to that. I think it was Clifford Corveau in the 57.
That was a ripple effect, and I think the wall is to blame for that one. Is I think he went right at the racetrack and just smacked the outside wall and straight into the 87.
Here's a look at it here as 87 was on the inside line. 7 up on the top. And off of the corner, yeah, just ran the corner way too wide. Nowhere for Galinas to go. And then unfortunately, very short straightaways. The 7 back up the track. And oh man, what a shot there for Chris Hubka in the 5 car. On the brakes, the car snaps loose and he's just along for the ride. Unfortunately, the destination was hitting contact with the 7 of Anderson, who was already come to a stop.
That was a heavy shot for a lot of these drivers, and so much so that Bailey Galinas, the leader at one point in this race, has actually taken his car back behind the wall. I think he's done for the night. I don't know if he's used a fast repair and has just run out of fast repairs and doesn't feel like racing, or something happened to his car, but that is another driver. The first retirement of the race was a former race leader, and that calls back to what we said earlier. It doesn't matter where you're running or where you've been. What happens at Bristol, and the first retirement, a former leader of the race. And I'm looking at that Hubka incident. Man, he did just pile drive the 7.
Hubka was already a lap down and had to come down pit lane for more repairs to his machine. We're going to have 21 drivers, I believe, on the lead lap when we go back green. I think it was the 4 of Zach Camella that actually got the lucky dog here under this caution. You just saw the 42 of Bryce Cobbler. He had to let the leaders on by. That will actually have him scored a lap down, so it'll actually be 20 drivers on the lead lap when we get the green flag. And a driver that got involved, a couple of drivers that got involved in that restart stack up there, Anthony. The fallout for them, Kyle Spees now trapped a lap down. DJ Daniel is trapped 2 laps down. So again, drivers that were up there at the top of the point standing struggling here tonight at Bristol. But in all honesty, are we surprised? Because we know that a track like Bristol, with how close these drivers race each other, whether it's lead lap cars or lap machines, it's like a conveyor belt of race cars, and absolutely nobody is safe.
Absolutely not. It doesn't matter where you're running at this racetrack, because once the cars get spread out, you might as well just be running around with other lap cars anyway, because the leaders will run into lap traffic eventually. There's nowhere that you're never running with someone else. And I know that's get into a group of cars, there's just nowhere for you to really be able to go to avoid something that happens, especially if the closing rate between your car and a slow car is that much drastically different.
And those 2 drivers, Spees and Daniel, are 2 of 3 former winners this season that are in tonight's field. The other one leads us to green. Matthew Robinson gets us back underway, closing in on 100 laps to go. Corey Saucier slots into 2nd. The battle's going to be for 3rd. Kyle Gartner has it. Ryan Sizemore trying to take it as he'll power to the outside, heading off of turn number 4.
Oh, look at the run he got as well. He's going to get around with ease, and now Gardner's going to try to go to the inside to get the run up, but here comes the 9 of Lawrence without a front end on that car. He's showing some speed, trying to get around both of these drivers, and then behind him, you've got Ryan Phillips and Brock Salvati that were in a battle until the battle fizzled out. Now, it's still on between the 43 and the 97. They're closing in on these guys, and the Galashin is out yet again. Another big crash. I think the 60's involved in this one.
It's going to be Zachary Woods, Jordan Stencil, looking at the 79 of James Santoyo facing the wrong way, and he almost gets hit by a couple of race cars there. I think this might be the race leaders that are going on by that car.
And this, oh man, this was almost not a crash, but this was some synchronized spinning, and I think netcode might be the cause of this one.
Take a look and see what happened here. At least 3-4 drivers collected up. Oh yeah, you're right. Took a while for this wreck to actually culminate. It's Santoyo in the 79, the 64 of Stencil. There's the little bit of contact right there. They slide it into the corner, keep it going, and then the follow-up contact with Stencil and Woods is what causes the melee off of turn 2.
For a second, it looked like they were auditioning to be in Formula Drift, because that was impressive. They were able to keep the train going for a little while, and then you had the 60 coming in. Although, I gotta say, though, Jordan Stencil was crashing before the 60 hit him of Woods. So, where credit's due, I don't think that Woods was the cause of that one. Certainly, though, that was a good piece of driving from those two to keep it side by side for that long. And that give them some style points. That was impressive that they were able to keep it steady and synchronized.
Absolutely, but the end result is both drivers with quite a bit of damage, along with the 60 of Woods, and there you see Clifford Corbeau picking the wrong lane as he was trapped on the inside and had to wait for Jordan Stencil to get his car refired before leaving the accident scene on the back straightaway. All of those drivers, with the exception of the 57, were running on the lead lap and battling for position at the time around the 15th spot.
So, something in this race that these drivers are going to have to do is trade each other's insurance numbers, because there's quite a few cars that are going to need some a few repairs at the end of this race. And I would imagine that there are some tempers boiling over at this point. We've seen a lot of drivers, they get close to each other, and it's like they want to run clean, but you know that they're just fed up with trying to run into each other, and they're doing their hardest to not, but sometimes things break, and we're getting some interesting battles on the racetrack as a result of it. They're always battling like it's the last lap, and I gotta say, it's really entertaining to watch them do this, and for the most part, keep it clean, but again, the track, it's so small that there's no room for these drivers to go.
If we kind of use our race leader Matthew Robinson as a template, he did not come down pit road until we closed in on lap 100. Corey Saucier is on his 91st lap, so if we end up having another caution come out within the next 10 laps or so, something tells me he might think about coming down pit road for possibly the final time tonight.
A two-stop strategy for these guys. That's something that you hear in Formula One, but certainly not in a stock car race. So you can do it at this track. They've been under caution for so many laps that they've been able to really save a lot of fuel, really stretching out the mileage. And I wonder just how far these guys can go at this current stage, because I'm not sure that Robinson pitted when he absolutely needed fuel. I think he pitted for tires, so he could have easily gone another 20-25 laps from when he came down, but I guess we'll never know the answer to that question unless we get an interview with him. But Robinson, Saucier, and Lawrence, it's going to be your top three. We're about ready to set the back under green on lap 154 of 250. Green flag back out in the air. This time they're dead even off the line.
Hubka was the lucky dog under that caution as 21 drivers on the lead lap took the green here, closing in on 95 laps to go. The battle going to be for third place. 9 on the top side of Lawrence, Sizemore on the bottom. He gets pinned down there. Another car was in the wall back there. I think it was the 7 of Josh Anderson, but he was able to keep it straight.
Salvati takes fourth place with ease back behind them. Anderson trying to salvage from getting off the wall. Oh, Sizemore up in the wall. He's very familiar with the wall. They're 3 wide, and Sizemore is in the wall again, but keeps it going straight.
My goodness, it's a good thing that the wall here at Bristol is black. Otherwise, if it was a white car, it would probably be an entire black right side of that 8 machine, as he now is going to lose another spot. That's Zach Camilla making a charge back to the front after hitting some issues in the midway portion of this race.
Oh, look how fast he is. Oh, he's gotten into the wall, into the 43, and then into the wall. Now they're trying to split him around. Sizemore to the wall again, trying to hold it straight, but now Camilla trying to get back going again. He's going to try to get Miller position back. He's trying to take 8th place, and now catching back up to Ryan Phillips, who is very slow compared to these guys, but it doesn't matter. We're under yellow again for the 57 car of Clifford Corvo.
Also the 64 of Jordan Stencil, and I have to wonder if the 88 of Noah Owens might have been involved in this as well. I saw him rather slow over in the turns 3 and 4 vicinity, and this is going to bring out the caution for the 16th time here tonight at Bristol.
This was the 79 of Santoyo again, and Jordan Stencil just, they keep... See, here's the thing with the wall at Bristol. It closes in on you faster than you think it does, and I think that it caught Santoyo out on this one.
How about the driving by Chris Hubka and the 96 of DJ Daniel? They just barely got past the spinning number 64 of Stencil.
Good on Stencil for keeping it off the inside wall. He was heading straight for the little jet out where the emergency truck sits, and he was able to turn it to the right just in enough time to avoid hitting it. So good piece of driving on the 64 car.
Take a look here at James Santoyo in the 79, and his ride down the back straightaway has had a little contact there with Hubka's front end, and then a shot from the 57 of Clifford Corvo. And Now we're kind of getting to the point of this race, Anthony, where different drivers for the same reason are saying, can this race just end? For drivers that have been involved in multiple wrecks here tonight, they're just waiting for this race to come to a close so they can bring their wounded machines back into the haulers. For drivers up here at the front, especially Matthew Robinson, he'd love to see this checkered flag because there's still about 90 laps where something could happen to him.
Yeah, and he's running pretty right now. He's just running these laps around under yellows. He's got the cleanest car on the racetrack, I dare say. Just sitting out in front, running his own race. Doesn't really particularly have anywhere to be at the moment. He's got the fastest car, hand over fist. And Saucier has not been able to make a charge yet so far that he's been able to sustain. And if Robinson can hold the outside line, I dare say that he probably can keep the lead all the way through. But to your point, anything can happen. We saw the leaders earlier on in the race. They had problems. No one is safe, but you are safe behind the pace car. And right now he's just praying that maybe if the race can continue under yellow, then he'd be okay with it because he could get the win under that way because his restarts are massive. He's had some fantastic restarts in the late half of the race.
It'll be less than 90 laps to go when we get the green flag. Want to give a big thank you to all the sponsors here tonight for this broadcast. Jay's Mobile Detailing, based in Marion, North Carolina. Simply the best. Find us on Facebook and schedule your detail today. Auto Ventures LLC, based in Hudsonville, Michigan. Premier used car, truck, and SUV dealer with the cleanest selection and the lowest prices. Visit avcarsales.com to learn more. Also, JKR Motorsports, used car Hudsonville, Michigan at Auto Ventures LLC, and SimShots on Facebook, where you can find awesome photos for cheap prices. So a big thank you to all those sponsors here tonight as we are in the closing stages here of race number 8 of BackFire Sim Racing at Bristol Motor Speedway. So far here tonight, 16 cautions have flown. We're expecting a few more in the closing stages of this race, as the front row to start this race is the front row to get us back underway with 87 laps to go.
And a very similar start to what we saw at the start of the race, where Robinson spins the tires, but doesn't seem to hurt him as he's ducked down to the inside yet again. Side by side with him and Saucier. Here comes Brock Selvati. He wants to try and take the lead of the race as he's trying to get up to the front pack of these two battling for the lead. But look at the run that Saucier got out of turn 2, or made that turn 4. Now rocketing down the back straightaway. He's got a fast machine. And Christopher Lawrence and TJ Roberts now trying to get into the top 5, bringing the 7 of Josh Anderson with them.
Kind of get an idea of, at this point, drivers that have elected to use their faster pairs as those that are saving them. The cars that have used their faster pairs have nice clean front ends. The ones like Christopher Lawrence that have not used their faster pairs almost look like a 358 modified out here on the track, but still making it work as he's kept it up inside the top 5.
He certainly has have one of the... Oh, goodness! The 7 has hit the wall hard and has gotten into Zach Camella, and that could have been detrimental for both of them. Anderson just trying to hold his race car. Whoa! And again, Camella gets loose coming out of turn 4, so there's some problems going on for the 4 machine. He's trying to get back up to the front, but it's proven to be more difficult than you think it would be.
Maybe lose a spot here to Bobby Anderson and Edie Will, who also moves around Josh Anderson. The 18 is a driver who has used his faster pair. You can see the front end is clean on that car again, and we've got a caution. Zachary Woods and Kyle Spees apparently have gotten together.
And this is about the 5th time that Zachary Woods has found himself in something, and I think that this is... he's got no aerodynamics on that car. I think he just pushed up the racetrack and was trying to hold on for dear life because he got into the side of the 8 of Sizemore that spun him around.
The battle around the 13th position at the time. There is the contact, and oh, that is a shot in the inside wall. Whoo, close call there for the 3 of James Cato as the 60 almost came back up the track. I thought that Kyle Spees was involved, but he actually was sitting in his pit stall at the time. Unscheduled stop for him. Spees actually right now being scored 3, now 4 laps down in the 24th position.
We got to make note, there's been another driver retire, and he retired quite a long time ago. That would be Joey Wright, and the 82 has pulled his car behind the wall. He's now shown 38 laps down on the racetrack. So he was one of those drivers that had damage earlier in the race and was trying to repair it, but it seemed like it was too much to repair. So make that 2 drivers on the night that have taken the hard left back to the garage area. Corey Saucier on pit road. He's decided to give up the lead of the race to try and get some fresh rubber. He went almost 110 laps on that run, though. So that was, if you want to gauge the distance, that's the distance. I think he almost overshot his pit stall, though.
I think we can safely say final time that the 24 car voluntarily will be on pit lane. Only problem right now for Saucer is he's going to have to work his way through the field yet again. He had to do it earlier after having a spin from the second position. Slowly and methodically was able to do so, working his way back up into the top 5 and eventually got back to the race lead. But going to be restarting right now, according to what I'm seeing, somewhere around the 14th, 15th position. And that's a bit of an issue. That's around the vicinity where our last 3 cautions have happened.
Especially when we have restarts that get wadded up at the back of the pack. They try to go 2 and 3 wide. Sometimes there's even looks that go 4 wide, and you know that that's not going to work at this track. But 2 wide is hard enough with these cars. We have to remember, these cars, the majority of them, have got a lot of damage on them. We're always talking about the lack of grip, how they're struggling to find grip. If you take a look at the top 10, even the top 15, name me 1 car in the top 10 at least that doesn't have some sort of damage on it. Even the leader, Matthew Robinson, has gotten a little damage on the right side of his car where he made contact with the wall earlier on the race. This is proper short track racing, and this is one of the reasons why we see these cautions come out so frequently. It's not that the drivers aren't skilled or anything. It's their cars are so damaged that they're just trying to hold on to it the best they can. You got second place, Brock Salvati. You can see the back end of his car all crunched in, but that hasn't slowed him down any at all. In fact, he might be faster than Robinson, and if Robinson spins the tires on the inside line, we could have a new race leader going into turn 4.
And another thing I think that's leading to a lot of these cautions coming out as well is the lack of opportunity for space. I know Bristol's not a dirt track here, it's a concrete short track, but it reminds me a lot of a dirt track where everybody wants that top side, and if everybody's running the top side and somebody enters the corner a little bit faster or exits the corner a little bit faster, there's going to be contact made. If you go down into the bottom, there's no guarantee your car's going to stick. And speaking of sticking, the rear tires did not stick for Brock Silvati. He loses not only second place, but might be losing third.
Yeah, he got a bit of a big spin coming off on the restart, but that's good news for TJ Roberts. He's being able to get around, and now it's trying to run down Robinson, who has checked out from second place. Salvati now trying to catch back up, although I say that, Roberts is closing in on Robinson, so this could be a battle for the lead in quick succession. But take a look at who's in 5th place trying to get 4th place. That's Zach Camella. We had written him out, and now here he is going to the inside of the 9 for 4th place.
Driver in the top 5 with the freshest tires, as he's got about 40 lap fresher tires than even the race leader. Behind him, though, the 49 of Kyle Gartner. He's got fresher tires than the 4 machine does. He's going to try and make it a 3-man fight for that 5th position.
And they're stacking up, too. They're trying to find any bit of real estate that they can. The inside line just not working out for some of these drivers. Oh, there was some contact and almost getting into each other, but they keep it off the walls, and more importantly, they keep their car going in the right direction.
Car jumps to the top side again of Camella. Gartner with the fresher tires tries to run the short way around the track on the inside, but cannot get the power down. Camella will get into the back of the 9 of Lawrence. What a save by Christopher Lawrence, but that's going to lose him 4th place. Now he drops back to the 6th position.
And that's good news for Gardner, as he's been able to get around it as well. So now Camilla Gardner sets her sights on Salvati to try and take the 3rd place position. And you mentioned that this track isn't a dirt track. Well, it is kind of a dirt track sometimes. If there's a slow car, the 36 has spun around, and that's Kyle Spees. No, that make that. Somebody else has spun around. The 43 make that.
Ryan Phillips, who was running in 15th place, goes around. That wounded race car gets even more damage, this time over on the front straightaway, as caution's going to fly for the 18th time here tonight. We'll go back and take a look, see what happened to him.
This might have This is really. I think it was a solo. I don't think he was provoked by anybody. I think he just flat out lost his car.
Let's watch this all the way over in turn 2. Hart's going to get out of shape here coming off of turn 4. Clip the apron. Trying to save it. Enters shallow into turn 1. He's trying to continue to gather that thing up. I mean, this was maybe the world's longest spin. Started over in one corner and took about maybe 3/4 of the track to finally snap around.
He almost went the entire length of the racetrack sideways, did he? That was impressive to keep it going that way for long. And then he got it going around, and then he spun it around at the very end again. So something was definitely, and you can tell that car has got severe damage. There's no way that car is healthy or even has the amount of downforce that it would need to. But it was impressive. He was almost able to save it. Just it took an entire racetrack for that caution to come out, and I think the flagman was just waiting, seeing. He's like, not yet. There it is.
The anticipation killing the flagman, wondering, do I get to throw an 18th caution flag? And indeed, he did. And we will be getting ready for a restart now with less than 70 laps to go. We do have another driver that has now taken his car back behind the wall, so they're starting to pile up like we expected here, Anthony. Josh Anderson, the latest driver, to head to the infield as he puts his number 7 out of the race. Looks like he will finish in the 26th position here tonight.
Yeah, that will be the best chance he has to finish, the best finish position he can. That is if Kyle Spees and Gene Cato actually get back on the racetrack or even pass him on the racetrack, because Gene Cato's still got quite a few laps to go before he passes him. Kyle Spees hasn't come back out on the racetrack yet, so there might be some 25th or 24th might be where I'm sorry, that'd be 25th. 25th might be where Josh Anderson finishes at the race, but that is only if some things happen. What is happening is Matthew Robinson is loving these yellows. He has not lost the lead under these yellow flags since about lap 90 or so. He has been up at the front with the lead of the race. I don't think he's too concerned about what happens with the guys behind him. As long as he's at the point and his spotter is saying that he's leading the race, I don't think that he's really in that much of a bother at the moment.
But for the first time tonight, TJ Roberts will line up to his outside, and Roberts has been a mainstay inside of the top 5, not counting when he had that wheel spin and dropped outside of the top 15, had to work his way back up here, but we may not know the full extent of just how strong that 11 car is. You've also got Brock Silvati, Zach Camello, who's been maybe the most aggressive on restarts, and Kyle Gartner, the completion of the top 5. Green flag back in the air with 65 remaining.
And TJ Roberts, the latest recipient of the wheel spin at the restart, as he was not able to get going as quickly as he wanted to, although back up the speed. Oh, the crossover down the back straightaway, trying to get to the inside of Silvati, but Silvati holds his ground, takes second place. Back there, you got Zach Camella, who's come all the way from 24th at one point, is now coming back up to try and get back into the top 3, is in running 4th place, but he's got a mirror full of Kyle Gardner, and Camilla has had some history with the outside wall, as a lot of these drivers have.
This is the group right here you might want to keep an eye on with the fresh tires. Have pretty much made their final pit stop of the evening. Bobby Anderson in 6th, Corey Saucier in 7th. You've also got Bryce Cobbler and Chris Lawrence back there that were on pit lane under this latest caution, as Ford gets into the wall pretty good there on the front straightaway, and Anderson gets a huge run on both him and Gartner for the 4th position.
Oh, he's trying to take it somewhere, but there's nowhere really to go with it, as he's going to have to settle in and go right behind them and try to hold off the outside advances of the 24, who's trying to get one of his laps back. So I'm sorry, he's actually on the lead lap. I was looking at the wrong thing. So he's actually on the lead lap, now trying to get around.
Oh, we got a spinner!
That's the second place! That's second place!
Up Silvati, and he got a ton of help, it looked like. Not certain, but it might have been the 4. I don't know what it is with that 4 car tonight, but apparently cars like to spin off his nose. That's at least the 3rd driver I can recollect that he spun tonight.
That was actually off the 11. I think that this was just running him down. I don't think he was he kind of slowed down in the middle of the corner, did Salvati.
Take a look and see what happened here. The battle for the runner-up spot. Roberts behind in the 11, the 97. Ooh,
That's a tough one.
that is. On my screen, it looked like there was still space between them before the contact was made.
Ugh. I'm looking at it from multiple angles, and it looks like there might have been some contact. That's a really tough one to call, though. There was definitely something that happened to the 97, no question about it. He did kind of park the bus in the middle of the turn, but was it so much so that it was able to run him down like that? These cars are extremely loose, it seems, but man, I don't know how you call that one.
He got the car back up to speed under pacing in the 9th position, but that doesn't matter since he has actually brought his car down pit road. What undoubtedly is going to be his final pit stop of the day, and so it kind of throws into question here 99 of Matthew Robinson. Now we know that these drivers pretty much can stretch it 100, 110 laps. That means that we would be seeing Robinson duck onto pit road somewhere in the next 20 laps or so. Do you want to come down pit road with only 30 laps to go, give yourself only that window of time to work your way back up to the front, or do you want to come down pit road now and maybe be able to work with about 50 laps to get back up to the race lead, especially if we continue to have the short spurts with cautions in between, not giving you much time to make forward progress?
He's definitely playing game of roulette right now. Oh, interesting development. I think TJ Roberts is coming to pit road. Nope, he is playing a little game of
Gotcha.
possum. Yeah, just yoink. But Matthew Roberts, you're kind of in a weird spot. You're definitely on a roulette table at the moment, and the wheel's spinning. I think he's put a lot of his chips on pitting late, having the freshest tires available to him, and then running. Now you might end up landing on something that we've seen a lot of cautions happen back there. It's a tough position to be in. You know you need to pit. How early do you pit? I don't think he's used a fast repair either, so he might have one of those at his disposal if he needs to use it. Getting through the field, we've seen him do it before with a short amount of laps, and if the cautions keep coming out the way they are and people in front of him keep crashing, then he might be able to weed his way through, but you run the risk of having some contact happen. Although I say that, nowhere safe. We just saw second place crash, so certainly the leader isn't safe either. But I don't know, Seth. What do you think? What do you think's going in the mind of the 99 team right now?
I think right now, just try and keep that car in one piece until you actually have to come to pit road. I think it's the same strategy that he did back before he made his first pit stop. Just keep himself out in front in that clean air, control these restarts. If you have to come down pit road and go back in traffic, do it when it's absolutely necessary. Don't run any risks. The thing that I still question, though, is does he believe he has a strong enough race car to be able to make his way from what more than likely is going to be somewhere around the 16th, 15th, 16th starting position when he eventually comes down pit road to get back up to the front of the field with maybe only 25, 30 laps remaining in this race?
We'll have to answer all those questions later, because right now we're back to racing. This time Robinson got a whale of a restart. He's actually going to pull a bit of a gap back to Roberts, although Roberts has not lost hasn't lost any momentum on Matthew Roberts. Although Cody Saucier is coming right up, trying to get that second position away. Kyle Gardner makes up the top four, and then Zach Camilla trying to get back up into the top four, but we got a caution yet again. I'm not sure who this one's for, though.
A couple of drivers really slowed down on the telemetry. I think it might be a case of what we had for our second caution, where it'd be kind of one of those we go back and say that actually brought out a yellow. I think it might have been a spin and save type situation, and not exactly sure where in the field it took place. Maybe around the 43, the 96.
It's the 83, I think, that brought this one out, because he's the only one that was spinning. Bud Barnes.
Oh, yeah. 3 wide situation there is. Oh, he got the wall in front of a lot of your lead lap cars.
Yeah, that was a spin. So, oh wow, and he pounded the inside wall after he was done spinning. So, I saw him on pit road almost immediately, so I didn't think that was the reason why he was under caution. But that might be day done for Bud Barnes. Whatever is wrong with that 83 car might be detrimental now.
Well, the thing of it is, right now for Bud Barnes, if he can keep his race car out there for at least 12 more laps, he will at least move himself up to the 27th place finishing result. He can pass Joey Wright and Bailey Galinas. Cannot pass any other drivers, however, so it might just be a case of trying to maximize points. Maybe if he's able to move up to 27th, he would then put the car back in the garage area, but right now that car is obviously well off the pace and has sustained even more damage here. Another driver that did get a piece of it and just came down pit road for repairs was the 98 of Jeremy Richmond, who had done a great job of mounting a bit of a comeback there after being involved in a number of early cautions. He was up inside the top 15 at the time.
And speaking of people that have come down pit road, we have a new leader in Bryce Cobbler, and the reason for that is that we had a lot of drivers pit coming down under that last yellow. All of our top three pretty much came down pit road. Matthew Robinson, Corey Saucier, and TJ Roberts, Zach Camilla as well, Bob Anderson. Basically everyone in the top 5 back to top 6 came down pit road that time by. They're all fresh on tires and good to go to the end. These drivers that are at the front of the field, we don't really know what to expect out of them. Bryce Cobbler, certainly a lot of heavy damage on the 42 car, but the 21 looks like looks pretty well. We've seen both of these drivers in crashes tonight. Can they hold off these guys with fresh tires? My guess is I don't think so.
No, I don't think so either. This is a perfect scenario for Matthew Robinson since a lot of other drivers came down with him. I had projected he was going to be restarting back in the 15th, 16th position after making the pit stop. He's going to be restarting in 8th place, so that is not a lot of cars he's going to have to pass, but good job there, though, for Bryce Cobbler, still keeping his car on the lead lap. He's going to get himself a bonus point for a lap led here tonight at least as well, and I actually just noticed the familiarity of the paint scheme he's actually got on his car. If I'm not mistaken, I believe that is a throwback to the 555 that Subaru runs in the Rally Cross series.
That would be a Subaru scheme. Absolutely. That was a late 90s, early 2000s scheme that was ran by almost every Subaru that was on the market at the time. Oh, look at this stack up that we got on the restart, though. But we are about to get going again, and that car looks like it's been in a rally stage, a little bit of a wrong side of the of an embankment because we're back underway. Oh, he's trying out the racetrack, but almost got into the 21 of Vickery. There goes to the inside, trying to get the lead again, but Vickery now to the front.
Big wreck.
Oh, yeah, big one.
Bobby Anderson, Angel Santiago, Corey Saucier was involved. 98 of Richmond was collected. And there's a number of others. I see Daniel back there got a piece of it. James Cato, I think, was involved.
The 11 was also involved. Oh, good. The 99 was involved. Matthew Robinson, the leader.
Oh,
the former
gracious.
leader. And there is nowhere safe. What were you speculating at the before the restart happened? Something like this could happen. Oh, it actually started with them. They were going 3 wide.
See if we can point the area here. I mean, these are guys that you just named off right there that have been up inside of the top 5. A number of them out in front in this race under green flag conditions.
This is netcode. This is 100% netcode. That car turned dead left after making slight contact with the 88.
Oh, look at that. Roberts, there's Camella in there. Might have gotten a piece. The 88 of Owens was one of the drivers in that 3 wide situation.
That's a lot.
And we've had a number of those drivers come down pit road. Saucier's come down. Matthew Robinson's come down. TJ Roberts has come down.
And they got to get that damage repaired. Now, there was a fast repair used on the port of Matthew Robinson, so he did have one of the books, so smart on him for keeping it. But that, I would wager to bet it was his only one, as everyone, I think, only gets 1. 64 of Stencil's on pit road. That car is undoubtedly not going to be up to speed. He's got to get some repairs done in that car. The 90 of Santiago is in pit road as well. Just looking through the field, it looks like that is all we got. Oh, the 11 is on pit road, Roberts, like you said. So feeding time with the zoo, but it's not it's taking medicine and not getting regular food. So this is it's a heartbreaker for these guys. And they were running at the front of the field pretty much all race long, and now find themselves caught down in the mid-pack, just trying to get back to the front. But still got a few laps to run, about 40, well, maybe make that 38 to go when we get the restart. But Seth, no one is safe, and we were mentioning it. They might have not wanted to do that to get make it so that they don't get involved in the crash, but find themselves in one of the biggest ones of the night.
Absolutely. We had a couple other drivers that got collected up in that incident. Chris Hubka got a little bit of it, as did Zach Woods in the 60. Looks like drivers that were able to, for the most part, get through it and still remain out there on the racetrack did not come to pit road under this caution period that had pitted under the last yellow. Zach Camello will restart 8th, Christopher Lawrence in 9th, Kyle Gartner and Chris Hubka in 10th and 11th. Matthew Robinson, as you mentioned, had that faster pair in his hip pocket, but he will now restart back in the 12th position. And in all honesty, too, yes, there was some net code, but it also was based on the fact the 99 realized he had the fresh tires. He was in full-out go mode. If he saw a hole, he was going to take it because he wanted to make his way back to the front as quickly as possible.
Indeed, he wanted to do that, and it's just the way that the race has gone. I'm almost struggling to come up with a scenario where something that is sure would work, but we're going to find out what's going to happen on this restart. Look at the way that the 78 and the 8 are getting close. Oh, goodness! Cobbler with a major wheel spin on that machine, and now he's going to get in the clutches of the 78, stacking up the field.
Oh, Gartner's going to get sent around by Richmond, I believe. Hubka's going to get into the wall, and now the back straightaway is going to be blocked up again.
And they're still wrecking throughout the turns 3 and 4. We're going to do this all over again.
Richmond gets the car refired, drives away. Hubka took a pretty good shot with the front end up into the wall in turn 3.
They were 4 wide at one point.
James Cato in the 3. Looks to be off the pace on the inside apron there. 22nd caution of the night gonna come out here at Bristol Motor Speedway as we close in now on 30 laps remaining. See if we can find out where the actual initial contact began. I think it started around where the 49 of Gartner was.
There was, I want to say that the 5 was involved. He definitely didn't start this one, but I think you're right. I think the contact happened there, but Gardner was definitely the one who started. He gets up into the wall and then just kind of rode down to the inside, and the 5. And actually, they almost had it saved, but then the 98 of Richmond came and plowed in, and that kind of set everything off.
Jeremy Richmond, that car has been through the wars here tonight, as there you see him get into 94, or the 49 rather, and then I believe it was Gartner clipped the right rear quarter panel of Hubka, sent him up into the wall, and more contact as well for the 9 of Christopher Lawrence, who is down pit road. Second in the standings, Christopher Lawrence. I mean, right now, it's looking like the battle for the points lead is really going to get shaken up here tonight, because I don't think there's a single driver inside the top 5, let alone the top 10 here this evening, that hasn't been involved in a wreck and had to overcome some kind of adversity and loss of major track position.
And that has been the tale of all night long. The only driver that I'm looking at right now that is in the top 5 in the standings, that is still in the top 10, that is the 99 of Robinson. He's still here, running in 7th place. A relatively clean car has used a faster pair. Kyle Gartner right behind him is also used a faster pair, so those are 2 of the cleanest cars on the racetrack at the moment. But Matthew Robinson's been able to keep his car relatively clean, and that's kind of a product of being up at the front of the field. You kind of get to gauge where you can put your car, and you don't really find yourself in sticky situations much. He did get a little contact that last time by, but not really enough to knock anything loose, I would imagine. But all the cars in front of him, you can look at them. TJ Miller, or JR Miller missing a front end. Bryce Cobbler missing a front end, which I need to correct an earlier statement. That's an early 90s Subaru World Team scheme that was run and debuted in 1993 for the Subaru Impreza 555. I looked that up during one of the last cautions, so I didn't look stupid. Zach Camella no rear deck lid on that car. The 43 also with a bit of a missing front end. So there's a lot of cars damaged in front of him. Can he get around them? He's the cleanest car on the racetrack. He's certainly got the speed. I don't know if he's got the track position, though.
And he's going to be restarting on the inside line where a number of drivers have had to deal with the wheel spin. There's only 2 more races after tonight in the regular season as well until the playoffs are put together, and names that are down around that 16th position cut line like Bud Barnes, Noah Owens, James Santoyo, Chris Hubka, Bryce Cobbler, Josh Anderson, Clifford Corbeau. As we go back green, these drivers have all had issues here tonight, so there's no doubt Bristol is playing its part into who's going to be a playoff contender in 2 weeks' time, as the 8's going to get spun, 43 gets clipped, another huge wreck on the back straightaway, as several cars come flying in, the track's completely blocked in turn 3.
That is almost everyone that was outside of the top 5 involved in that crash. You just look on your screen and look at the number and see if your favorite driver was involved, because there's a good chance that one of them was. I don't think that the 4 ever slowed down. I think he just plowed right through.
We've seen smaller big ones at Daytona. Holy cow, must have been upwards of 15 to 20 cars involved in that one. Several drivers sliding in, unable to get on the brakes, and it started from the 2nd position on back, a chain reaction wreck that began with the 3rd place car, clipping the 2nd place car, and then just no lanes open for anyone to make their way through.
Zach Camella came in, and from my angle, though, it looks like to his benefit, it looks like that netcode might have been the reason for this one, as there was a pretty sizable gap between him and the 8. The fact still remains that even with without netcode, they were going to make contact just on the given trajectory. So the 8 slows down. Here comes Camella. He gets involved. Everyone behind is trying to figure out the 43 spinning, and then it's just a chain reaction. No one was safe. Woods was involved. The 8 was involved. The 98, 49, the 88, the 36, the 43, the 83, the 64, 96, 87. You just look through the field and see if your favorite driver was involved. The 18 also involved.
I want you to watch here this wreck, because all 3 cars that started this incident all seem to block a specific lane in the corner. The 4 blocks the inside, the 43 blocks the middle, and the 8 blocks the top. So no matter where you decided to go to try and avoid this wreck, more than likely you were going to hit somebody.
It was one of the the track gets so blocked up, there's nowhere for you to go. There's nothing for you to really do, and I struggle to think of a way that, although that being said, the 99, if you look at Matthew Robinson, I know we keep bringing his name up, but look at the way he was able to carve his way through that. There was almost a 0% chance he was making it through there. He found a hole, though, and I'm wondering, someone else went with him. I think it was Zachary Woods that went with him. They were able to get through the, I think Woods went to the bottom of the racetrack and basically hung down to the inside wall and just hoped for the best, but again, the track's so small, not anywhere for you to go when something like this happens. And this was at the front of the field.
Heading on board with Matthew Robinson, and I want to specifically watch the hands on the steering wheel as he maneuvers his way through this wreck. Restarted from the 7th position on the brakes. Low to avoid, high to avoid, low to avoid. Man, that was a great piece of driving. Matthew Robinson, and who knows, in about 28 laps time, we might be calling that the move of the race.
Certainly a move that could get you the win of the race. He's now lining up in 2nd place, and if you look at the cars around him, J.R. Miller is the leader of the race. That car is way worse for wear. Look at the cars all around him, all of them missing a front end. It's shocking the difference between these drivers. We're underway again. J.R. Miller, Matthew Robinson, it's a no contest. Matthew Robinson on the outside line easily takes the lead.
Matthew Robinson's 2 wins this season have come at tracks 2.5 miles in length. The season opener at Daytona and last week at the Brickyard. Here tonight, he's showing off his short track prowess as he is gone by half a straightaway over J.R. Miller. We got a car that might be in trouble back there. Yes, we have a spin. That's the 88 of Noah Owens on the back straightaway.
And that's going to be another yellow. This one, thankfully, a lot smaller than the last one we just had, but working. What are we up to? 20-something cautions at this point in
24.
time? 24. So he did not want to have that. He was on the apron for the majority. Oh, he wasn't the initial cause of this. The 96 was up in the wall. DJ Daniels.
Yeah, there you see the smoke. And I don't know if he got some help from behind or not, but then I think that's Stencil in the 64 that might have sent the 88 around. Oh, late shot there. Who was that?
I can tell you that the 96 got help from the 9. That's what spun him around. He ended up saving it, but then not so fortunate for Noah Owens.
I think it might have possibly been the 90 of Angel Santiago that had that late hit on the 88. We'll look at the initial contact you were just talking about there that sent DJ Daniel up into the wall. There it is. See, he start spinning that thing around, made a little contact as well with the 8 of Sizemore. Then I believe this green car right there, yeah, that's the 90. Took a hard shot with the right front into the 88 and then clobbers the left side down to the inside wall.
Yeah, Santiago was just in the wrong place at the wrong time on that one. Not really anywhere for him to go. It's been the tale of all night long, basically. He couldn't see anything through the plume of smoke either. But those are the 3 primarily that ends up with damage out of this. And, you know, second verse, same as the first, and we're up to 24 verses of this race so far. And the one constant throughout this entire race, we've been saying how unpredictable this race can get. Matthew Robinson, I know, again, we've been saying his name a lot, but there's a reason for it. Look at the top 10 right now. Look at the state of all those cars. Now look at Matthew Robinson's car. He's in a completely different time zone right now as far as how his car is handling, the way it looks on the racetrack. He used that fast repair when he needed to instead of using it earlier on the race, and it's paying out dividends for him as now he's the fastest car on the racetrack, undoubtedly. He's got the freshest tires in the top 5, aside from that being Woods and James Cato that have got a similar strategy. I don't see anyone taking a challenge to the 99 at this stage in the race.
I agree with you. I think if anybody's going to, just based off of speed that we've seen here tonight, and of course a lot of these drivers now may be down on said speed, 97 might be the highest one that's been able to in some way match the 99 for speed, but as you can see, he joins the list of drivers that's out there getting plenty of clean air to the engine with absolutely no nose on the front end.
The 9 also, Christopher Lawrence has got a relatively clean car. He might be one of those to try and challenge, but going to set them back underway on lap 230 of 250. 21 laps to go. What's going to happen? Will Matthew Robinson spin the tires? Not this time. Oh, but Miller did, and that's going to be another crash.
And it's going to wad up turn 1. TJ Roberts, Bobby Anderson get involved. Another car that's facing the wrong way down there. I can't tell who that is. I think that's the 3 of James Cato. He's getting a piece of the incident.
The 96 may have gotten involved too.
Wow.
Yeah, the 96, the 21 was involved as well.
That's night over for James Cato. That engine is toast, and I guarantee you with how damaged that car was, he did not have a fast repair to fall back on.
Chris Hupka got really lucky on that outside line. I think he ghosted through one of the drivers that was spinning around, the 78 to be precise, and I don't think he got any damage out of that one.
Here's a look at the restart. Watch the 78 Moco car on the outside of the front row. Could not get up through the gear. Spun the tires. They start wadding up. Sizemore got a piece of that. Santiago might have barely gotten on the brakes before the 3 came down across his nose, but about 5-6 drivers collected up in this stack up over into turn 1, and it now puts us under our 25th caution of the evening here tonight at Bristol Motor Speedway.
It's been a long night for these drivers, and you can tell that the fatigue is starting to get to them. They just want this race to end, especially Matthew Robinson. He's sitting at the front of the field. He's been up there pretty much the entire race, just running these laps around. This is probably the coolest this car has ever been during a race, just running laps and not really having to have the engine at full power. So, and a relatively clean car at that. Other driver, check out Zachary Woods running in second place. I don't think we would have said that 50 or so laps ago. Here we are. He's missing his front end, has the back end all crunched together. That car looks like it's from a completely different series, but still running in second place. Christopher Lawrence, we were mentioning him. He is more than likely at this stage going to at least get into second place of the standings. I don't know if he'll get the lead in the standings because Matthew Robinson's had such a good run tonight, leading the most laps, and more than likely, if nothing changes, would be the top contender for the win of this race. Christopher Lawrence might find himself possibly the points leader, but more than likely will be definitely leapfrogging DJ Daniels, who has had a horrible night in that machine. So we'll have to document his progress. Brock Salvati also with one of a good run. He's now running in fourth place, and Ryan Sizemore, for all of his troubles, is still running in fifth place.
Certainly going to be close for that points lead between the 99 and the 9 when we leave here tonight. And of course, this race is not over yet. We're still going to be, when we go back, green flag racing somewhere in the vicinity. Yeah, lights are out, so it'll be 15 laps to go. Plus, we've still got the possibility of overtime green-white checkers here tonight at Bristol as well. But I think more importantly right now for Christopher Lawrence, that car may not be up to speed to win this race. It may be damaged and he might just be in salvage mode. But right now, with where he's running, he could be going into the final 2 races of the season worried free of making it into the playoffs, because coming into tonight, he is currently sitting 118 points ahead of that 16th standings cut line. If he can finish with a top 5 here tonight, he might be able to head into the final 2 regular season races, knowing that mathematically he will be one of the 16 drivers competing for the championship in the postseason.
And that is a little bit of weight off the mind of a driver. He can perform at top performance, green flag bat in the air. Robinson again gets a good start, but this time, look at Lawrence. He smells blood. He knows that the points lead is on the line, and he wants to make sure that he can at least get second place. Although, the way they're running, I think that it would be Lawrence. If they finish the way they are now, Christopher Lawrence would be your points leader.
Got a spin. Spin on the back straightaway. Hubka and Roberts get together. There's a follow-up spin over in turn 3. That's Roberts again.
And JR Miller make that. Looks like he was involved in this one as well.
Caution out for the 26th time here this evening. Last caution actually brought about the departure of James Cato from tonight's event. And one thing that we haven't talked about here, Anthony, is only in the last 30 laps, only one driver in Cato has gone to the garage area, but there's certainly been a lot of fallout of drivers being on pit road, spend a lot of time getting repairs done, because we got several drivers off the lead lap, multiple laps down, like Noah Owens, Bobby Anderson, Corey Saucier, who started on the outside of the front row, Zach Carmella, Kyle Spees. I mean, these are some big names that were running up at the front in the early stages of this race.
Yeah, and that is how quickly the dynamic of a race can change, and we've seen it happen where they'll come down pit road. Sometimes everyone's been on an off-sequence pit strategy since the onset of the race, and they're trying different ways to get the advantage, but we've seen that even the leader right now, Robinson, had problems when there was a massive crash and everyone in the about 10th on back ended up getting some damage in some shape or form. It's one of those situations that you don't want to have to find yourself in, but this is Bristol. This is something that happens at this racetrack where you can go into it with all the intention to have a good race, but inevitably something will catch you off guard, and there's nothing you can really do about it. We're at the stage now, we're going to be under 10 laps to go when we get the restart. A lot of these drivers are going to be in desperation mode. They know that the season, or the regular season anyway, is coming down to a close. They just want to get the maximum amount of points that they can. Some of them trying to get into the playoffs. You're going to try and push harder. Do we keep seeing that drivers make desperate moves to put themselves in a higher seed for the playoffs? Or do they kind of get into salvation mode or conservative mode where they just run around and try to get the best finish they can without causing any more crashes?
Yeah, I mean, if you look ahead to the final 2 races of the regular season, a lot of drivers might have been eyeing Bristol as their opportunity to either pick up a victory or, as you said, give themselves a nice cushion between themselves and 16th in the standings, because next week these drivers are heading to the high-banked mile-and-a-half, the D-shaped oval of Texas Motor Speedway, and then we determine the 16 playoff contenders in the regular season finale at, guess where, Daytona. Talk about a wild card race with a super speedway determining the championship competitors.
The way these drivers have ran tonight, it's almost like a super speedway
It really is.
They've been all over each other tonight, 2 and 3 wide in some areas, and we've had a couple big ones, so you can kind of count this as an honorary super speedway race tonight. It's definitely had the unpredictability that we've seen at, say, Daytona and Talladega, but when we get to Daytona, that's going to be the eye for some drivers to really see what they got, because once the playoffs start, it's all on from there. Some drivers looking forward to it, other drivers wishing they could get to it, but right now we got a race to settle. We're going to have 7 laps to go, make that 8 laps to go when we hit the stripe. And Matthew Robinson and Christopher Lawrence going to get us back underway in a few moments' time.
See if Robinson can clear the 9 before they get to turn 1. He's conceding the top line, which has been the preferred line all night long, and it looks like Lawrence got himself a really good jump. He's going to battle on the top side to go to the front, and he will clear.
Look at the row!
Oh, wow!
Robinson sails it in and gets a run now out of 4 down to the inside of the 9. These two have been the fastest cars in the second half of the race, and now they're duking it out to see who gets the lead, still side by side.
In terms of tires right now, it's advantage to Lawrence. 6-lap pressure tires, contact as Robinson puts Lawrence into the wall and will go to the front.
There was a bit of contact that was made. Now the front end of the 9 falls off that machine. Just trying to salvage anything he can now, and now the 99 is all but gone. A huge gap, a 1.5, almost a 1.1 second gap back to second place.
It was for 4th place. It is now settled with Salvati taking the spot. J.R. Miller now will look to the inside of Ryan Sizemore for a spot inside of the top 5.
They're still battling side by side even further back in the field, and that is going to slow everything up.
This Hubka in the 5, a lot of damage and smoke billowing from beneath that machine. The caution will come out for the 27th time tonight, and now puts us in the vicinity where we will have ourselves a green-white checkered restart.
This crash, it was all by himself. I'm looking back at it. He got way too much up on the racetrack and tagged the outside wall going down the back straightaway, and that shot his car down to the inside of the wall.
And I believe he's going to come up and get, is that Richmond? Yeah, Richmond in the 98, as well as the 42, Bryce Cobbler.
This has just been a horrible night for the 5 machine. He is one of those drivers that really wants to see this race end.
Also one of those drivers that really needed a good run here tonight. 17th in the standings coming into tonight's race. 1 point behind 16th in the current standings. And so had an opportunity here tonight with a decent run to maybe find himself up there in a playoff position with 2 races remaining in the regular season, as watch him off the corner here. And I gotta wonder, we know that when a driver goes up and gets it outside wall, it's usually a case of the car getting tight, not turning off the corner. With all of these drivers having this damage on both the front and the rear end of their cars, you talk about lack of downforce. Does that play into the car not wanting to turn left when you come off of 2 or 4?
Especially on the front end, you don't have any downforce running the way that you have with the front end of the car. You have no splitter on the front to really get the downforce on the front. So when you tag the wall, it just bangs off the side and then sends it straight on. There was no chance that he was going to save that the way that he took a bounce. If he had a fresh car without any alignment issues or some aerodynamic advantage, then he possibly could have saved that. But I think that was just a culmination of damage that he's accumulated overnight, and it just ended up with him shooting down on the inside. I'm looking at him on pit road right now. That car is a broken mess right now. You were talking about him getting into 16th in the standings to get into the playoffs. He does have a shot, believe it or not. Christian Roos didn't take the start of this race. That didn't even make the qualifying, so he's going to undoubtedly lose some spots. The only drivers behind him are Clifford Corvu, Josh Anderson, and Bryce Cobbler within a shot that made the start tonight. We have Bobby Anderson, but he's quite a ways back in the 22nd position. Tyler Hallahan didn't start this race either. So if everything finishes the way it does, Josh Anderson will finish in front of him. I believe. No, he's out of the race. So that's one that you don't have to worry about. Right now, Corvo is running in 21st back there, and Bryce Cobbler is still running behind him in the 16th position. So if Bryce Cobbler doesn't pass him on the racetrack, which he's about to right now, so that's the null and void, but Chris Habka still has a shot. He will at least maintain the 17th position in the standings, if nothing else, given the fact that Roos never took the start.
All right, Anthony, I want to take you back to that last run there prior to this caution as we get ready for a green-white checkered. Remember, the 99 put the 9 of Lawrence into the wall. Short tracks breed short tempers. Drivers never forget. Does the 9 repay the courtesy here to the 99 on this restart as they'll be the front row?
We're about to find out, but look at the restart that the 9 got on the outside. Lawrence was not hanging around and now tries to hold on to it. Here comes Robinson on the bottom, sideways out of turn 4, and that's going to set him up again.
Caution comes out. I believe it was J.R. Miller in the 78 who's going to bring out this 28th caution of the evening.
I believe you are correct. I'm going to go back and look at it. We're looking for a spin, and it was the 78 looping it around, and I think he got a little help from our points leader.
I think you're correct. Daniel in the middle shoots the gap. Had the momentum, certainly wasn't going to lift. I don't think any driver's going to lift if they're in a situation like that, especially with it being green-white checkered finishes. But you said we rack them up, do it once again. But going back there to that move for Christopher Lawrence, I talked about, possible payback. What better way to get revenge than to take the race lead away from the guy that put you in the wall on the last restart?
And not only that, but given the amount of damage that 9 car has, if he ends up winning this race, that's going to be an extra bit of kind of a gotcha moment, as he has got a heavily damaged car on the front end. He's been in the wall multiple times. Again, we keep saying that Robinson's got the cleanest car on the racetrack, but it doesn't seem that he's got the fastest car when you compare it to Lawrence, that there is some tire advantage. There's about a 4-lap tire advantage. I don't think that's enough to make that big of a difference. He just got the power down that much better than Robinson. Give a shout out to Zachary Woods. He has stuck it out and is running in 3rd place. And so far, I don't think he's going to give that up for anybody.
Zachary Woods is another driver that's trying to make his way up there for a shot of getting into the playoffs. And I have to chuckle to myself because I was just thinking about last week where we went caution-free at Indianapolis. That race was sponsored by Blues Diecast. And the race winner was to get a custom diecast of their race-winning car. Can you imagine if they had sponsored here tonight with the carnage machines we have up here inside of the top 5? I mean, 4 of your top 5 don't even have a nose.
You're going to have to break the mold a little bit to make one if you're going to do that one. You might as well just, I think it'd almost be easier to make a Winston-Salem modified car and then just try to put some extra body work on it at this stage in the race. The 60 car definitely looks like it was a kind of Frankenstein together last minute in one of those race what you brung races that we see in some of the fairground racing. But man, can you imagine having a car this damaged and still being up to pace? That's the thing that's shocked me the most. Most of these drivers have still got pace, even though their car is way worse for wear. Then again, this is Bristol. The high banks of this short track kind of benefits you in the fact that you can get some decent runs through the turns. And how cheeky is this? Lawrence, for the first time tonight, the leader selects the outside line.
See if it pans out for him. Obviously, the outside line's been the preferred line all night long, but Robinson has been determined on these last two restarts to make the inside work. May come down to a slide job attempt. These drivers have to make it around and receive the white flag before a caution comes out for the race to be official. If they don't, we've got one more green-white checkered overtime attempt in our hip pocket. Green flag back in the air, dead even at the line.
And trying to get around the outside line is going to be Lawrence. He's trying, still side by side, all this contact, but they keep it going the right direction, still under green. Do we stay green when we get to the line? More contact, and he's up in the wall again.
Again, the 9 gets put up into the fence, and Robinson took the white flag. We will end this race, whether it be the caution or the checkered. Robinson won last week, picked up his second win of the season. He'll get win number 3 here tonight, coast to coast at Bristol.
And he did it the way that you had to do it at Bristol. It gave a little bit of a shunt to Lawrence and knocked him out of the way. We got cars that were wrecking on the end of the race, and here comes Lawrence. You know that he's not happy. That was a dirty move on the part of the 99, but that is short track racing for you.
Absolutely is, and as you said, it's the only move the 99 could make. We were seeing how the outside line was getting the momentum off of the corner. You had to stop that momentum somehow, some way, and Robinson did what he had to do, as he will now join DJ Daniel as a 3-time winner here in the BackFire Sim Racing, and gets to burn it down here tonight at Bristol Motor Speedway. I believe that the car that was smoking on the front straightaway coming to the checkered flag was the 21 of Jeffrey Vickery, and even a smoking machine is going to finish inside of the top 10.
That is not typical of Bristol, but it's typical of tonight's race to see that these damaged cars make it to the end. And you know how people say that the best part about short track racing is seeing the damaged cars at the end of the race that are still competitive? We had a whole host of them tonight. You can look through the top 10 alone. Most of the cars missing a front end. The only car that looks anywhere relatively to where it started is that 99 car.
How about Rebel Racing this season? Teammates in Matthew Robinson and DJ Daniel have won 6 of the 8 regular season races. Talk about dominance for those two drivers.
And I don't think that dominance is going to go away anytime soon. I think that they're going to carry this over certainly throughout the rest of the regular season and into the postseason. It's just, it's one of those times that you get a good combination of drivers, and it doesn't seem like it matters what track you go to. You just end up having good finishes, and I think it's also due to skill. These drivers know how to use their equipment. Certainly tonight's strategy was a big part of how Robinson was able to win this race. And if my math is correct, I think we're looking at the new points leader going into next week at Texas. I think that Robinson does take it over Lawrence based on the fact he led most laps. He gets the bonus point for that. He's won the race, obviously, so he does get those points. So based on that, I think that he's going to be the points leader. So still those two teammates are going to be leading the points.
If my calculations are right, I'm not exactly certain what order it's going to be in, but I think that Robinson, Lawrence, and Daniel, with Daniel finishing 9th here tonight, what a comeback run for the 3-time winner there, it's going to be less than 10 points heading into Texas between these 3 for that points lead with only 2 races remaining.
And that is going to be crucial for a good seed in the playoffs for these drivers. They want to have a high seed, and I think you get a points bonus if you're the number 1 seed, so they definitely want to have that on their table in case they need those extra bonus points heading into any of the rounds that we go into. And it's just a lot that we have to talk about for point standings. Again, the story with the 5 machine, can he get into the playoffs? Can Hubka make it? Based on my math, he is still 17th in the standings, but he does still have a shot. He's not out of it yet with 2 races left, given that the fact, again, that Roos didn't make the race. So, and Bud Barnes had some struggles tonight's race as well, so he might fall back a little ways. it's not over for Hubka.
We look here at our finishing results. Usually it's who finished where. Tonight it's who survived the best. As you've got Robinson with the win. Lawrence brings it home in second. Zachary Wood, you talked about him, how he was able to keep himself up there towards the front of the closing stages with a car that didn't even look like a cup car. He's going to get third. Kyle Gartner, who ran into issues all the way back on lap 2, battled his way back up to get a top 5 here tonight in fourth. And Brock Salvati will bring it home in the 5th position. TJ Roberts in 6th. How about Jordan Stencil? I think he got 2 or 3 lucky dogs here tonight. He's going to get 7th. J.R. Miller, who brought out the last caution, he was able to get 8th. DJ Daniel, the points leader, coming in. He is able to salvage 9th, and Jeffrey Vickery completing the top 10. I mean, there's no doubt about it. We're not in any way exaggerating that tonight was a race of survival.
It was. If you look at any of the cars on the racetrack and see just the condition that they're in, we talk about survival races. We normally talk about man versus machine, them just physically pounding away at the race. You think about the Coke 600, how it's the longest race on the schedule for most of the cup drivers in the real world. You think about that, and you say a battle of endurance. It's one of those races where you just keep going, even though you're tired. A 6.5 hour race for one driver is not at all an easy feat. You take into consideration the World Endurance Championship has a minimum of 3 drivers you have to have for a 6-hour race. Granted, those are sports cars. It's still the same rule applies. That's what you normally think of. You don't think of man versus machine versus the racetrack. And that's what we saw tonight was the track. Bristol had something for these drivers, and these cars came out of it worse for wear, but still these drivers were able to hold on to them. And like I said before, you couldn't tell if some of them were damaged because they were still up to speed for the most part.
No doubt about it. You're about to find out, after 250 laps, what the drivers thought of the action here tonight, as we had 28 cautions and a torn-up field at the conclusion when Bristol was done with them. Let's see if we can talk here with third-place finisher Zachary Woods. Zach, it's Anthony and Seth up here in the FRM booth. You got us?
Yeah, I got you.
Ow. We call this the last great Coliseum. You gladiators out there gave it everything you had and then some. A lot of beat-up machines crossing the start-finish line here tonight, but you bring it home in the 3rd position. Obviously, it had to have been an adventure here tonight. Describe what it was like from inside the cockpit of that 60 machine.
Yeah, first and foremost, God's been so good to our family, and I never thought I would have the means even a year ago to do something like iRacing. So just a really cool opportunity to meet new friends here and just race well. So, but yeah, just a crazy race, and I think I wound up hitting about every car out there. So managed to bring it home 3rd.
That was a battle of attrition to get it to even 3rd place. Your car looked like a modified car by the end of it, but the track conditions is kind of what we've been wondering all night long. There never really seemed to be that rubber line that formed over the course of the race. How bad was traction out there for you guys all night long? Because it seemed like the grip was a premium, and when you got it, it was great, but for the most part, you never really did get to have it.
Yeah, honestly, just kind of you need those long green flag runs in order for that grip to really settle in, and unfortunately, they were pretty rare tonight. So track position was king, and we just tried to do everything we can to make sure we could keep that, and we managed to value track position there at the end.
Zach, I'm not sure if you had Bristol circled on your calendar as the place to get your first top 5 and top 10 of the season, but with 2 races remaining in the regular season now and coming into this race 11th in the point standings, now what's the outlook after being able to salvage a podium finish here tonight, heading into Texas and, of course, that wild card race, the regular season finale at Daytona?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, no, I did not have this circled either, and really my expectation all year for BackFire was to just make sure that hey, I was consistent, competitive, raced clean, and top 15s were the expectations. Top 10s would feel like wins, and anything on top of that was just icing on the cake. So tonight's awesome.
Well, Zach, congratulations on a great performance here tonight, finishing third place here at Bristol Motor Speedway. We're now going to give you the opportunity for some thank yous, some sponsors, and shout-outs.
Yeah, like I said, to God be the glory. That's what, for me, this is all about, and just being able to race the colors of Christ on this car. It's just awesome. But can't do this without some good sponsors: Blackgate, SimSpeed, Butt Kicker, SimShot, Splash and Go. I'm sure I'm missing a few, but the guys here at BackFire, they're just so good at organizing this, and gotta give the nods to the admins and you guys for taking a chance on a beginner league. And anybody who wants to learn in a good environment with guys that want to help teach others, BackFire is the way to be.
Zachary Woods, he finishes third place here tonight for his first top 5 of the season, carries some great momentum into Texas next week. Congratulations, Zach.
Thank you. Thank you.
Let's see if we can find out about the driver that was on the receiving end of the bump and run, if you will. Second place finisher here tonight, Christopher Lawrence. Chris, it's Anthony and Seth up here in the FRM booth. You got us?
Hey, Anthony. Hey, Seth. How are you guys?
Man, we're doing good, but we saw an unbelievable race there in the closing stages between you and the 9. A couple of times contact was made. Unfortunately, you were on the receiving end of it, putting you back into second position on both exchanges. If you've been able to get back up there to the 99, were you going to use the chrome horn, move him out of the way? Because it kind of seemed like he was muscling you out of the way to get to the front.
Seems to be how Bristol is. It was tough racing up front there. Unfortunately, I can't give away any of our trade secrets. Any future skills that might happen. But no, in all seriousness, he's a good competitor, and I know it's just hard racing, and it's just kind of what happens at Bristol. It's tough to hold that low line there, and the last 2 laps when you're racing for a win, it's tough to hold it. So.
For your race, you kind of slinky through the field. You went from the front to the back to the mid, back to the front. What was it like driving in different conditions? Because you had to get around some slower traffic, and you yourself had a pretty tough race car to handle at the very end of the race. Did the cars feel any different when they got damaged? I mean, obviously they would feel different, but how much different did the cars feel after they got damaged versus when they were clean?
Yeah, I took a little damage early to the right front there, and it seemed to not really want to turn as well. So we started to loosen up a little bit in the corners. So we started trying to really be patient, backing up our corners, a little earlier than we, normally would. But, it just really didn't want to turn once you hit that. We got some damage to the front there. That was one of the main things that we were trying to overcome. With the new tires, it made it a little easier. Obviously, got a little more traction. So, we figured we'd come in and, keep rotating those tires out, keep them fresh so we could, make those runs. We kind of got lucky that, so many people were down laps, so it didn't put us too far back.
Now, Chris, you came into this race second in the point standings. Only 2 races remain here in the regular season, so it's definitely looking like here tonight with a podium finish, you've clinched yourself a spot in the playoffs. So with that being said, how does that change your mentality looking forward to Texas and Daytona?
It really doesn't change much because, right now we're really fighting for that season points championship. That was one of the goals that we had coming into the season was to, finish out the season at number 1. Going in, feels good to be locked into the playoffs, but, we still have a season goal to win. So we're really going to focus on trying to get that W, bringing home that championship, and so we can take that momentum and go into the playoffs here in 3 weeks.
Congratulations on another solid outing here tonight, Chris. Second place. And we're going to now give you the opportunity for some thank you sponsors and shout outs.
Yeah, I want to thank my team first and foremost, Rebel Racing. They were awesome tonight. Chris Hubka, Kyle Gertner, Kyle Spees, Jeff Vickery. Without them and helping me with the pit strategy, it would have been a tough race tonight. So I got to thank them. And a huge shout out to Flatout Racing Network, you guys, for putting on a good broadcast. And everybody out there for watching. We really appreciate it.
That's Christopher Lawrence. He secures himself a spot in the playoff here tonight. Maybe next week we'll see that number 9 in victory lane, but he finishes second place here tonight at Bristol. Congratulations on a great run there, Chris.
Thank you so much. Hope to see you back here next week.
And now let's go down to victory lane. Back-to-back winner and three-time winner on the season, Matthew Robinson from pole to win here tonight at Bristol Motor Speedway. Matthew, it's Anthony and Seth up here in the FRM booth. You got us?
Yes, sir. What's going on?
Well, man, last week when we covered the caution-free race at Indianapolis, you made it look easy. Tonight you had to work for it, though. A lot of restarts, many of them in the latter stages. Some great battles between you and that 9 of Christopher Lawrence. Looked like you were determined to make that inside line work. What were you able to find to be able to muscle your way to the front there using that inside line, which seemed to be the weaker of the lanes as the longer a run went on?
Well, man, that's we pitted with like 200 on lap 200, and we're just going to stick with that to the end. And we dodged a bunch of wrecks and was very lucky to get through them. And we found ourselves up at the front, and I was just hoping for a green flag race all the way to the end, but that will never happen. Bristol is always a tough track, and me and Lawrence were just flopping back and forth, and I knew when I seen him come up to third, I'm like, oh boy, here he comes. I know he's always good everywhere we go, and I really wanted to win, and I didn't want to wreck him or nothing, but I was gonna rough him up a little bit just to try to get the win. I didn't want to dump him at all, but I went back and looked, and it looked like a little bit of net code happened, but yeah, it was we came out on top, and that's what our goal was.
And you did it in pretty dominating fashion as well. One of the cleanest cars on the racetrack at the end of the race when it really mattered. You were able to keep your car pretty clean all night long. I noticed that you used a fast repair strategically, keeping it in your pocket for when you needed it. And we were speculating that if you come down pit road, you needed to you'd have to start in the middle of the pack. And we were wondering if the leaders that came down with you would end up being involved. And that's just what happened. What was your mindset when you had to get into the middle of the pack, working your way up through the field to get back to the front of the pack? Because it seemed like there was nowhere to go on the racetrack for you to make any moves, but somehow, some way, you're able to find it, doing some wreck avoidance along with it.
Yeah, it was definitely hard to get start in the back. We at the beginning of the race we just stay out as long as we could just to not get involved in anything, and not where we had to use our fast repair. But we just had to be patient and just take it slow. Just try not to overdrive it or get into anyone, or just watch everyone else around you. And it was just you just had to weave your way through there. You sort of had to wait till a couple laps into the run to get everyone strung out to actually get any ground. But it was definitely a challenge to get through the field. But it was fun though. I really enjoyed it.
All right, so Matthew, obviously with back-to-back victories, you're obviously right now in win mode. Now, with the point standings coming in, you're only 7 points back from the points lead with 2 races remaining. And, of course, winning the regular season championship, you get yourself some extra playoff points once the playoff grid is put together. So, heading into Texas and Daytona, does it change the mentality from win mode to now points mode? Or does it still remain where you're going to try and see if you can pick up a 3rd and a 4th victory before this regular season comes to an end?
Yeah, we're trying to win the next 2 races too. We're already pretty well into the points. Hopefully we can get Texas and Daytona. Daytona will be definitely tricky, but trying to get another some more wins, try to get the regular season championship. That'd be awesome. But if not, I'd rather get the main championship at the end of the year. But yeah, definitely trying to get some wins under my belt and get some more momentum going into the playoffs.
Momentum is definitely on your side. Back-to-back victories and back-to-back wins, one from the pole position at Indy last week and Bristol here tonight. Congratulations there, Matt. We're now going to give you the opportunity to do some thank you sponsors and shout-outs.
Yes, sir. I'd like to thank JKR Motorsports with Jeremy Richmond. And I think we've won a lot this year we've worked very good together. Like I said last week, man, we're clicking. Um, Hopefully Jeremy can get a win and Brock can get a win. We can all have wins. That'd be so awesome. But I'd like to thank Main Street Auto Service, Matt Rob Cuts that was on the car today. Junior's Mobile Detailing, Auto Ventures, um, New Spirit Construction. We just have so many people helping us out with painting these cars, really. But hopefully, I mean, making us look good on the track, stand out. Um, but yeah, I'd like to thank BackFire, and I'd like to thank y'all at Flatout Racing Network for putting on a great show, great broadcast, one of the best I've seen.
Well, that's Matthew Robinson. He ties now for most wins this season, picking up his third victory of the season here tonight at Bristol Motor Speedway. Congratulations there, Matthew, and we look forward to watching what you do here down the home stretch of the regular season, heading towards the playoffs.
Yes, sir. I couldn't do it without my spotter, Patrick Moore. He helped me out a lot all season, especially every race, especially tonight.
So Matthew Robinson going to get to celebrate here tonight at Bristol Motor Speedway. And Anthony, as I said, the point standings are in. Christopher Lawrence is going to have the points lead heading into Texas, 2 points over DJ Daniel. Matthew Robinson only 7 points back, but of course, that's the battle for the regular season championship. More importantly, if we go down to that 16th position in the standings, you were talking about him before we had the interviews. Chris Hubka has jumped to 16th, 8 points ahead of Bryce Cobbler, and only 23 points ahead of Brock Silvati, who gained 8 spots in the standings here tonight. So there's no doubt that 16th position in the playoffs, that is going to be hot and heavy a battle in these final 2 races.
Yeah, especially because those drivers really seem to hang around each other. Given tonight's race, that they were around each other quite a bit. A lot of the drivers were around each other tonight's race, but Chris Hubka found himself in a lot of trouble tonight. Ended up getting the wall a lot, but still managed to get the 16th. But we go to Texas next. These mile-and-a-half tracks do produce some great racing in this league, and we're going to see just what Chris Hubka can do. Can he maintain the 16th spot? He's got Bryce Cobbler, though. He wants this 16th spot as well. He wants to get in the playoffs. You look down through there, you've got Cobbler, Salvati, you've got Christian Roos, that if he makes the start next week, he's going to have a contention to get back into the top 16. And then you got Ryan Sizemore, which we've seen a lot tonight, getting involved in a lot of accidents, but still within striking distance. A little bit, may be a little bit out of reach, just ever so slightly, but still right there. Could maybe try and get and snipe it if someone has some problems, but it's close. It's close for this 16th spot, and this is the final spot for the playoffs. And if you want to win this championship, you have to be in this top 16. If you can do this, then you very well could go on to win the championship as a wild card. Chris Hubka definitely is the target on everyone, or he's got a target on his back for everyone going into Texas.
Less than 15 points ahead of said target. You've got guys like Bud Barnes, Noah Owens, and James Santoyo, who all had issues here tonight as well. They're just above the cut line of Chris Hubka. So if we're talking about these drivers as well as those ones you named that are below that cut line, with the 2 races coming up here of Texas and Daytona, Daytona obviously is one of those tracks that going in, you can't rely on the fact that, oh, I'm going to have a great run here, I'm going to be safe. So is everybody basically eyeing Texas as the place that might be the absolute determiner of what our playoff grid's going to look like?
It's the one place that you can definitely have a say in the control of your outcome. Like you said, Daytona is one of those places where it just kind of rolls the way it does, and you get more or less lucky than you actually plan out what happens. But Texas is the last race this season where you have full control over what happens for the most part. I would see that Texas is going to be on everyone's watch list for the final race, where you can really make your mark and set the tone for how Daytona goes. And some of these drivers might go through Texas, end up getting a really good finish, locking themselves in the playoffs, and not having to worry about what happens at Daytona. Obviously, the top 5 for the most part are pretty much locked into the playoffs. But for those drivers that are down there, mired in anywhere around the 13th position all the way down to about 18th realistically, they're looking at Daytona as the worst place to be. And if you have any doubt of whether or not you're going to make the playoffs, because more often than not, you're going to do everything right, but there's always going to be that one thing. There's always going to be either the big one or you get stuck on the wrong line and with 2 laps to go. Just anything that can happen at Daytona will happen. So yes, Texas is going to be that race that you definitely want to control your own destiny at.
Well, a lot of drivers here tonight were able to control their destiny, securing them spots in the playoffs as they have got themselves a nice little cushion ahead of that cut line with 2 races remaining. But the battle for the final few spots in the top 16 are going to be hot and heavy, and we begin it next week at Texas Motor Speedway and then cap it off in 2 weeks' time at the Daytona International Speedway for our regular season finale. But a crazy one here tonight at Bristol. 28 cautions here this evening, and when the smoke and the sheet metal was cleared, it was Matthew Robinson picking up his 3rd win of the season here tonight at Bristol Motor Speedway in the Right Technology Solutions 200. Anthony, it's been a long one for us, a long one for these drivers, but finally a conclusion, finally a race winner. Appreciate you joining me in the booth.
It was fun tonight. It's good to see some good old Bristol racing and seeing all these guys really take it and seeing all the beaten, battered cars. That it's just a cool concept to me to see all these cars just so torn up and still running around on the racetrack. So it's always fun to come to a track like this and always fun to do commentary with you.
Probably won't see these cars back on a Cup Series track. Maybe they'll come to a local short track near you. That might be all they're good for right now. But for Anthony McCurry, I'm Seth Cole. Thanks for tuning in tonight, guys. We'll see you guys next Friday night for Texas Motor Speedway, as it's the penultimate race of the regular season here for BackFire Sim Racing. You've been watching another broadcast tonight courtesy of the Flatout Racing Network.
This broadcast is the copyrighted work of Flatout Racing Network and may not be rebroadcast, retranslated, or used in any form without the express written consent of Flatout Racing Network and iRacing.com Motorsports Simulations. Flatout Racing Network would like to thank you for your support, and we hope you enjoyed tonight's broadcast.